The older brother was once a fearsome school bully, while the younger brother suffered bullying every single day. And in the end, he was even driven to jump from a building and kill himself, just to support his younger brother's education. Cheolim chose to drop out 3 years ago. After he left school, his younger brother Sol Kim suffered unprecedented bullying. But Sol Kim never told Cheolim about any of it, and Cheolim had been busy making money the whole time and never noticed. It was only after watching Sol Kim die right in front of him that Cheolim finally realized something was wrong. And at Sol Kim's funeral, he received an anonymous video. The content of the video was footage of Sol Kim being bullied. As Cheolim watched Sol Kim in the video, his eyes nearly split with rage. He completely lost control, because both Cheolim and Sol Kim were orphans who had grown up in an orphanage. They had grown up in an orphanage, and because Cheolim was born with a pair of blue eyes, all the other children treated him like a freak. Only Sol Kim was willing to stay by his side. From that moment on, Cheolim decided that Sol Kim would be his only family. Watching Sol Kim in the video being bullied until he was barely recognizable, and even forced to bark like a dog in the end, Cheolim's anger reached its peak, and he decided to return to school, to drag those scum out one by one and fight violence with violence, making them truly understand what hell feels like. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Today was the first day of the high school term, but the moment Cheolim walked through the school gate, he saw Youngsu bullying a classmate. The moment he recognized that person as Youngsu, Cheolim did not say a single word and lunged straight at him, using one hand to slam him brutally to the ground. And the instant Youngsu saw those blue pupils, the hair on his whole body stood on end, and his thoughts were dragged back to 2 months earlier. At that time, Youngsu was walking to a billiards hall with his friends when he happened to be seen by Cheolim from across the street. And the instant Cheolim saw Youngsu, his anger exploded on the spot. Because he recognized him, Youngsu was the one in the video who had bullied Sol Kim. So Cheolim quietly followed Youngsu all the way to the billiards hall. And when Youngsu went to the restroom, he blocked him directly inside. Then, without a word of nonsense, he threw a punch. It was vicious and heavy, and it sent Youngsu flying backward on the spot. Looking at Youngsu lying on the ground, Cheolim asked him why he had bullied Sol Kim. But after hearing Sol Kim's name, Youngsu not only sneered nonstop, but also mocked Sol Kim as a useless snitch. Those words completely ignited Cheolim, and what greeted Youngsu next was another storm of brutal blows. With every punch he threw, Cheolim thought of Sol Kim, and that made his attacks more and more ruthless. Only after beating Youngsu until he had completely lost the ability to resist did Cheolim finally stop. But immediately afterward, he heard an unbelievable piece of information from Youngsu, because the video sent to his phone had not been sent by Youngsu. And behind the bullying of Sol Kim, there was also someone named Yohan Jong pulling the strings. After learning the identity of the mastermind, Cheolim looked at Youngsu and slowly said, "This is my warning to you, and to everyone who ever bullied Sol Kim. From here on out, the only thing waiting for you is hell." The scene shifts, and Cheolim has already arrived at class 2 of the first year. His revenge had officially begun. He would use the same methods to torment those bullies. But the moment he sat down, a blonde-haired guy walked up and provocatively told Cheolim to get up, saying it was his seat. But after seeing Cheolim's face clearly, the blonde guy instantly broke out in a cold sweat, because Cheolim had beaten him up outside school before. And to this day, he still could not forget those blue pupils. At this moment, the blonde guy hurriedly apologized, saying he had mistaken him for someone else, terrified that if Cheolim got upset, he would beat him savagely again. Just then, a commotion suddenly broke out in the classroom. One student was being bullied by his classmates. Looking at the terrified expression on that student's face, Cheolim could not help but think of Sol Kim. So he directly said to the blonde guy, "Go stop him." Hearing Cheolim's words, the blonde guy was completely dumbfounded. Although he was unwilling, he did not dare refuse at all and could only stiffly walk over. Judging by the way the other side reacted to the blonde guy's attempt to stop them, they clearly did not care at all. And the blonde guy was obviously afraid of them. Even after they started hitting him, he still did not dare fight back, and in the end, he was actually lifted into the air by the throat. Seeing this, Cheolim decisively made his move. His fist shot straight toward the man's face, and the tremendous force instantly made blood pour from his nose. The man immediately struck back after recovering, but this little bit of amateur skill of his was not worth mentioning in front of Cheolim. With a single sidestep, Cheolim easily dodged, then kicked him so hard that he flew several meters away. The man still wanted to keep struggling, but he was interrupted by a teacher who suddenly arrived. Under the teacher's pressure, everyone could only stop for the time being. After class, a long-haired man walked over. "My name is Yuzyung. You'd better be careful. The person you provoked is no ordinary person in this school." After hearing that, Cheolim did not care at all and directly asked him how much he knew about the school and whether he knew Yohan Jong. The moment he heard the name Johan Jong, Yuziang's expression instantly turned cold. At the same time, elsewhere, the once imposing Yangsu was now sprawled on the ground, apologizing non-stop to the person in front of him like a dog, all because he had lost face by being beaten by a first-year student. The one at the head asked whether anyone knew who Chiolim was. Seeing everyone shake their heads and say they did not know, he slowly walked up to Yangsu and kicked him flying with one blow. "I'll give you one more chance. Go teach that Chiolim a proper lesson." After saying that, he turned and left, but after walking a few steps, he suddenly stopped. "Do you know something? I kind of miss Sol Kim. That guy was really interesting." The scene shifts. After school, the blonde guy invited Chiolim to go sing karaoke together, hoping to use the opportunity to bring their four-person group closer. The blonde guy, Chiolim, Yuziang, and stocky guy. But Chiolim still had a keep-your-distance expression on his face. Clearly, he had no interest in these little groups at all. The only thing he wanted to do now was avenge Sol Kim. And after seeing Chiolim leave, Yuziang also lost interest in going singing and turned around and left. Stocky guy comforted the blonde guy, saying everyone was probably just too tired on the first day of school. "I like singing. Let's go together, just the two of us." Hearing stocky guy say this, the blonde guy did not respond and only stared at him coldly. Over on Chiolim's side, after he returned to the orphanage, all the children ran out and happily gathered around him, talking. But among the crowd, Sol Kim was nowhere to be seen anymore. The memories instantly surged back. Chiolim could not help but freeze in place, and it was only when the children called out to him that he finally came back to himself. Then he took the children home for dinner. But right after that, something unexpected happened. A child named Hyansu went out to retrieve a soccer ball and was actually noticed by Yangsu. Yangsu had actually found this place. After waiting at home for a long time and still not seeing Hyansu come back, Chiolim finally realized that something had happened. Just as he was about to go out and look for him, his phone suddenly rang. And the moment he answered, what came from the other end was Hyansu's cry for help. "Bastard, you recognize my voice, don't you? Get to the address I sent you immediately, or I can't guarantee what I might do." After saying that, Yangsu hung up the phone directly. Chiolim did not dare waste a second after hearing that and immediately rushed to the address. Inside the warehouse, Yangsu and his companions were chatting idly. One companion asked Yangsu, "Why did you have to kidnap him? Why not just go directly to his place? Are you really that afraid of that guy?" But hearing that, Yangsu forcefully declared that he wanted to completely destroy the other man's life. Just then, a burst of commotion suddenly came from outside, and one of the lackeys stumbled as he shoved the door open. "Boss." Chiolim had arrived. Before he could finish speaking, he was grabbed and thrown inside. That scene left all the thugs present stunned, and they stared fiercely toward the doorway. The one who came was Chiolim. The moment they saw Chiolim enter, the whole group immediately began cracking their knuckles and preparing for a fight. When enemies meet, there is no extra nonsense. No exchange of vicious insults, only a head-on collision of fists landing with solid force. Chiolim fought all the thugs alone, every move ruthless, clearly intending to beat every last piece of trash into the ground. Seeing that Chiolim was so good at fighting, Yangsu resorted to dirty tricks. And he directly took Hyansu hostage, forcing Chiolim to stop, or else he would break one of Hyansu's arms. In order to keep Hyansu from getting hurt, Chiolim had no choice but to stop attacking. And what greeted Chiolim next was a gruel beating from all those thugs. Watching Chiolim being pinned to the ground and brutally beaten, Yangsu was excited to the extreme. He told his companions to keep an eye on Hyansu because he wanted to do it personally, to repay all the pain he had suffered before, and as he said that, he walked step by step toward Chiolim. But when Yangsu saw those blue pupils again, he still could not stop his whole body from trembling. That reaction instantly enraged him again, and he swung his fist furiously, wanting to wash away all his humiliation. But just as Chiolim was being beaten, an unexpected person appeared. Yuziang actually climbed in through the window, and after climbing in, he successfully ambushed Yangsu's companion, rescued Hyansu, and after doing all that, he held Hyansu and called out to Chiolim. Seeing this, Yangsu completely panicked. Now Chiolim no longer had any weakness, and in the next second, a pair of big hands clamped fiercely onto his shoulders. Yangsu slowly turned his head, and the instant he saw Chiolim, he knew he was finished. But just as the older brother Chiolim was about to make his move against the bully Yangsu, Su Pilsong suddenly appeared behind Chiolim and launched a surprise attack. Facing Su Pilsong's attack, Chiolim did not continue going after Yangsu and instead focused on dealing with Su Pilsong. But Su Pilsong was clearly no ordinary fighter. And for a while, he was actually able to fight Chiolim on even terms. But in the end, Chiolim still caught an opening and smashed a brutal punch into Su Pilsong's waist, forcing him to stagger backward repeatedly. Seeing that Chiolim had suffered such serious injuries and still possessed such terrifying combat power, Soo Pil-sung was shocked to the extreme, and he could not help remembering what had just happened. Earlier, when Yuzeong climbed in through the window, Soo Pil-sung had already noticed him. But when he clashed with Yuzeong had kept trying to persuade him. Do you really think this is enough to defeat Kyo-lim? What you're doing now will only make things worse. Since you're a senior, why not defeat Kyo-lim fair and square? Or are you also afraid of Kyo-lim, just like Yang-soo? To begin with, Soo Pil-sung already looked down on things like kidnapping, so he stopped bothering with Yuzeong and directly let him take Hyun-soo away. Now that he had seen Kyo-lim's terrifying fighting strength, he decided to use all his power in this battle. And after seeing Soo Pil-sung get hit, Young-soo hurriedly told the lackeys beside him to go help. But the moment Soo Pil-sung heard that, he immediately spoke up to stop them. He wanted to defeat Kyo-lim fair and square. After saying that, Soo Pil-sung suddenly launched a fierce thrust, exploding with all the power in his body as he charged straight at Kyo-lim. But in the very next second, he froze, because Kyo-lim had actually dodged his attack in an instant. Then, seizing the opening after Soo Pil-sung made his move, Kyo-lim smashed a heavy punch into his chest. After that, a storm of attacks rained down one after another, and this time, Soo Pil-sung was completely defeated. Clearly, Soo Pil-sung's strength was nowhere near Kyo-lim's. After seeing Soo Pil-sung defeated, everyone present was stunned. They never imagined that Kyo-lim could be this strong. Young-soo panicked on the spot even more. And as he watched Kyo-lim walk toward him step by step, he turned and ran in terror. But because he was too flustered, he lost his footing and crashed heavily to the ground. As Kyo-lim planted one foot on him, Young-soo began begging frantically for mercy, hoping Kyo-lim would spare him, but there was no way Kyo-lim would let him go. Then came a sharp crack, and Young-soo's arm was brutally snapped in two. That scene directly scared everyone behind them completely senseless. After dealing with everyone, Kyo-lim slowly walked out of the warehouse, and Yuzeong was standing right outside. After learning that Hyun-soo had already been sent back to the orphanage, Kyo-lim asked him how he had known about this place. Yuzeong replied mysteriously that someone had told him, but he did not know who that person was either. However, that person was probably very close to Sol Kim. And after returning to the orphanage, Kyo-lim suddenly discovered that a classmate had come to the yard. This person was the very one who had tipped Yuzeong off. Kyo-lim directly asked who he really was and why he was helping him. But unexpectedly, the other person directly revealed the relationship between Kyo-lim and Sol Kim. Hearing him calmly say those things, Kyo-lim instantly became agitated and suddenly grabbed him by the collar. Who exactly are you? Actually, I'm the same as you, but I wasn't able to help Sol Kim. My name is Baek-sung Hyun, and I'm Sol Kim's friend. The reason I know this place is because Sol Kim brought me here before. At the time, you were at work, so you didn't see me. I saw you in a photograph, remembered your face, and then today, on my way home after school, I saw you. I was about to go find you, but then I saw Hyun-soo being dragged away, so I went to get that guy for help. After hearing Baek-sung Hyun's explanation, Kyo-lim finally let down his guard and asked what exactly Sol Kim had gone through at school. So Baek-sung Hyun slowly began to describe what Sol Kim had suffered there. Sol Kim was very smart, and he had many friends. But ever since that group of school bullies set their sights on him, everything changed. Sol Kim kept getting beaten, yet he never even knew why they were targeting him. From his first year to his second year, it never stopped. Even younger students from the first year dared to bully him. His friends were all afraid of being retaliated against, so none of them dared to stand up for him. I was the same. If I had known earlier that he would kill himself, I definitely would have tried to help him. Now, I regret it deeply. After hearing Baek-sung Hyun's account, Kyo-lim said coldly, if you really feel guilty, then tell me their names. After hearing that, Baek-sung Hyun asked with a conflicted expression, can you really destroy those bastards? Yes, I'll destroy them completely, and I won't let them lay a single finger on you. After hearing Kyo-lim's promise, Baek-sung Hyun slowly spoke. Alright, I'll tell you. The scene shifts. Kyo-lim was walking toward the third-year classrooms. Just as he reached class 1 of the third year, he saw a blonde-haired guy walk out. And when the blonde guy saw Kyo-lim, he recognized him immediately. Aren't you that first-year new student? Looking at the name on the blonde guy's clothes, Kyo-lim immediately recalled Baek-sung Hyun's words. Chang Yan-jong, starting from our first year. He often locked Sol Kim in the cleaning closet, then beat him with things like mops. At that thought, the blue light in Kyo-lim's eyes surged instantly, and he grabbed the other guy by the head and slammed it viciously against the door. As Chang Yan-jong was shoved aside, the scene inside the classroom came into view. This person is Hyun Baek. He often threatened Sol Kim during class and exams, forbidding Sol Kim from getting high scores and forcing him to score lower than him. In the next second, Kyo-lim used all his strength and drove a vicious kick straight into Hyun Baek's face. This person is Ji Sang-ho. Like Hyun Baek and Chang Yan-jong, he often beat, insulted, and humiliated Sol Kim. This person is Kim Junho. He often extorted money from Seol Kim. And everything happening here also caught the attention of the school bullies. They gathered together and began discussing what to do. Gi-ha Kim, ranked 6th at Wonol High School, believed that Cheolim was nothing more than a coward who only bullied the weak. If Cheolim dared come looking for him, he would definitely beat Cheolim flat. The moment Gi-ha Kim finished speaking, Choi Sung-min, who was ranked 5th, echoed him. Ji Min, ranked 2nd, also stepped forward and asked what they should do now. If they did nothing, the order within the school would collapse. Yohan Jong, standing nearby, said that Cheolim was only going after 2nd and 3rd year students. Clearly, he was taking revenge for Seol Kim. But the question was, why had Seol Kim not told Cheolim about these things back then? Hearing that, Gi-ha Kim beside him thought it was perfectly normal. He said that if Seol Kim had told Cheolim, it would have been the same as begging mercy from a junior. After all, Cheolim was only a first-year student, and if Seol Kim had not killed himself, he would already be in his 3rd year now. After hearing that, Yohan Jong immediately realized it. Who would have thought, Gi-ha Kim, you can actually use your brain too. But this scene does remind me of Taesu. Back then, Taesu was also a first year when he beat up all the 2nd and 3rd years. At this point, Gi-ha Kim was already tired of listening and directly declared that he was going to beat that guy up right now. But Yohan Jong beside him stopped him, saying that now was not the time. Do you know why Taesu was expelled? It was because Seol Kim killed himself, and right now our school is in its most vulnerable state. What do you think would happen if we provoked a new student right now? We can wait until he causes even bigger trouble in the school. At that time, that will be our chance to act. Looking at his current state, we may not have to wait very long. After saying all that, Yohan Jong looked forward. What do you think? This person is Ma Kyung, the one ranked number 1 at Wonol High School. In the office, the teacher was continuously scolding Cheolim. Did you come to school to fight? Do you think that beating up bullies makes you some righteous hero? Do you think the teachers will praise you for it? In fact, you are becoming the same kind of person as those bullies. This time, it's only a warning. I hope you remember that. And right after Cheolim walked out of the office, Yuzeong found him. We've decided to follow you. To all you upperclassmen in the 2nd and 3rd years, you're finished. At the same time, elsewhere, the 2nd and 3rd year students also gathered together and began discussing how to deal with Cheolim. Among them were Chang Yin-jong and others who had been beaten by Cheolim. Although those ranked on the Wonol High School leaderboard had no intention of making a move personally, Chang Yin-jong and the others who had been beaten by Cheolim simply could not swallow their anger. They wanted to join forces and give Cheolim a proper beating. And just as they were discussing it, a group of people walked toward them. The bespectacled guy in front spoke first. Yo, not bad. Quite a full turnout. Seeing this group of first-year students led by the bespectacled guy, the people on the other side clearly did not take them seriously at all. What are you here for? If you came to greet us, then you'd better bow a little lower. The bespectacled guy looked disdainful. Don't think that just because you've had a few more bowls of rice cake soup, you've earned our respect. In Korea, people drink rice cake soup every Lunar New Year, so having had a few more bowls means you're a few years older. As he said that, the bespectacled guy led his people toward them. Was it that bastard Cheolim who told you to do this? No. Actually, we're just doing what we should be doing. We've long had enough of you upperclassmen acting all high and mighty. Hearing the bespectacled guy say that, the bearded man on the other side said coldly, when you become upperclassmen, you'll be the same. Enough nonsense. Let's start already. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged straight at the bespectacled guy, and the fight instantly broke out. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Yuzeong had also led his people into action. Watching the scene descend completely into chaos, Chang Yin-jong could not help asking, should we go help them? But Hyenbek said, we'd better not. If we help them, we'll definitely get dragged into it too. And judging from the numbers, it's only a matter of time before the 2nd years lose. That's true, but right now I really do want to see that bastard Cheolim's face again. Just thinking about what happened yesterday makes my blood boil. I'm certain that Cheolim came here to avenge Seol Kim. Listening to him, Chang Yin-jong could not help laughing. So it was that brat. Just thinking about the time we measured his decibels makes me feel great. But at that moment, Chang Yin-jong turned his head and happened to see Cheolim walking this way. And those soul-piercing blue pupils once again entered his sight. Chang Yin-jong slowly walked down the stairs. I was wondering yesterday why you were acting so strangely. So it turns out you want to avenge Seol Kim. But do you think there's still any meaning in what you're doing now? Seol Kim is already dead. I know you're angry. When my toy gets broken, I get angry too. But can doing this bring him back to life? And after saying that, Chang Yin-jong burst forward and lunged straight at Cheolim. Even at this moment, he still believed that he had only been careless yesterday and that otherwise he definitely could have beaten Cheolim. But that thought did not last long before Cheolim's fist mercilessly shattered it. His fists came down like a storm, each blow heavy enough to rattle his bones. Feeling the intense pain surging through his body, he even wanted to play dead on the spot. But Chio-lim pinned him down so tightly that he could not escape even if he wanted to. It was obvious that what Chang Yin-jong had just said had completely ignited Chio-lim's fury. Seeing that Chang Yin-jong was nearly being beaten to death, Hyun-baek hurriedly spoke up to stop him. "Aren't you going to back off? You need to know when to stop. You need to understand your place, you first-year punk." But just as Chio-lim's fist was about to come down, it was suddenly stopped by the long-haired man at the side. "Don't get too worked up. How about I measure your decibels too?" The battle on the first-year student side had already ended. The bearded man in the lead was already being pinned firmly under the bespectacled guy's foot, and the moment he turned his head, he saw Chio-lim standing there quietly. Behind him lay 3 people on the ground, Chang Yin-jong and his 2 companions. Looking at the bearded man lying on the ground, Chio-lim gave an order, and the bearded man was immediately tied up tightly. Then Chio-lim grabbed one of his lower legs. "Then let me measure your decibels too." With a sharp crack, a scream instantly tore through the air. That decibel level was definitely loud enough. At the same time, in the teacher's office, a group of teachers were chatting, and the topic was entirely about the first-year students. And just then, a woman pushed the door open and walked in. That person was Hyun Seo. Like Chio-lim and Sol Kim, Hyun Seo also came from the same orphanage, and she had always taken very good care of them. Back when the old orphanage was demolished, it was also Hyun Seo who helped the 2 of them find a new orphanage. Otherwise, they would have ended up on the streets long ago. So Chio-lim and Sol Kim had always treated Hyun Seo like an older sister. After Sol Kim died, Hyun Seo had always blamed herself deeply, though she did not know why Sol Kim had killed himself. Chio-lim knew that Hyun Seo was preparing to become a teacher, so he did not want to ruin her future, which was why he chose to return to school alone to avenge Sol Kim. But what Chio-lim had not expected was that Hyun Seo had actually been assigned to their high school. After this battle, the first year's influence was continuously expanding. Even when facing third-year students, the first-year newcomers were not afraid in the slightest, and their attitude had become arrogant to the extreme. This entire scene was also observed by the people upstairs. The group upstairs were third-year students. They knew that the source of all this was Chio-lim. The expression on the lead man's face was extremely ugly. Before leaving, he told his subordinates to go teach those 2 first-year students a lesson. And this man was none other than Hae-gun, ranked 3rd at Wonil High School. The scene shifts. A third-year student was being beaten, and he kept saying over and over that he was truly sorry about what happened to Sol Kim. "This is the apology letter you wrote. Didn't I tell you it had to be 10 full pages? Why did you only write this few words? Can you do anything the way I tell you to? With this attitude of yours, I really have to wonder whether you're actually sorry at all." After saying that, he waved his hand, and the people around him rushed in all at once. What awaited the man was another savage beating. Not far away, the bespectacled guy and Yuzeong were watching all of this. It seemed things were going quite smoothly. But at this moment, Yuzeong felt somewhat irritated. He thought everything was progressing too smoothly, while the people who should have made their move still had not acted. The bespectacled guy, however, thought that maybe that group had already started getting scared, which was why they had chosen to keep watching for now, but Yuzeong did not think so. Still, a moment later, Yuzeong said it did not matter anyway, because in the end they would come to them on their own. And the person sitting beside them was none other than Chio-lim. One lackey came running over in a rush and said something had happened. Daejun and Hyungmin had been taken away. The 2 of them had already been beaten badly. First years ought to know their place, and they ought to learn to keep their mouths shut. The man turned and asked the companion beside him, "Tell me, why did it have to be me doing all this? Is it about to begin? I feel like our counterattack is about to sound very soon." At the same time, elsewhere, Johan Jong looked at Makyong and said, "The first years in our grade have already caught fire. I'm worried that if we still don't step in, everyone will get dragged into this. I'm guessing they'll be fighting their way here very soon." Makyong was just about to speak. Hae-gun slowly walked over. "Looks like everyone's here. Are you really just going to sit here like a bunch of cowards? Makyong, if you're still going to do nothing, then I think it's time you gave up that position." The moment Hae-gun finished speaking, Ji Min, ranked 2nd, spoke up from the side. "Watch your place. If you want to take the top spot, then beat me first, you meddlesome bastard. I was wondering how you managed to hold back this long. Then let's try it. What are you waiting for?" Johan Jong said, looking speechless. At that moment, Makyong stood up and spoke. "The school has already started growing tired of Chio-lim. Our time has come. Everyone in the 2nd and 3rd years, assemble." With Makyong's order, everyone quickly gathered. A great battle was on the verge of breaking out. Before long, the place was already packed with people. Third-year student Lee Kong-min, ranked 7th. Third-year student Choi Hyong-cheol, ranked 8th. Third-year student Yoon Yu-min, ranked 9th. Third-year student Dae-Yang-on, rank 10th. Once everyone had arrived, Yohan Jong spoke. Everyone, quiet down. The reason I called you all here is that the school has been in complete chaos lately. If this keeps going, order will definitely collapse. Ever since Cheolim came, the first-year students have been like mad dogs. The trouble they've caused has been even worse than what we upperclassmen have done, and the teachers are already struggling to keep it under control. So from this moment on, we'll be the ones to discipline them. On the other side, Yuziang went to the infirmary to visit Daejun and Hyungmin, who had been beaten up. Daejun spoke with a downcast expression. Are we really doing the right thing? Hearing Daejun's words, the bespectacled guy beside him spoke up. You got beaten once, and now you're scared? No, it's just that I feel like this whole thing isn't going to be easy at all. Even second-year Suyang can beat me, and the third years haven't even entered the fight yet. As Yuziang listened to Daejun, he seemed to be thinking about something. Then he said to the others, I'm leaving first. I need to go discuss something with Cheolim. But the bespectacled guy beside him suddenly spoke up. Why are you following Cheolim? All of us are following Cheolim because we trust you. Now I want to know, why are you following him? But faced with the bespectacled guy's questioning, Yuziang only replied calmly that he just thought it would be interesting. In class 2 of the first year, looking at the group gathered around Cheolim, the blonde-haired guy felt his scalp go numb. Even now, he still had not figured out what was going on. After freezing for a moment, he forced a smile onto his face. You've really become popular lately, as your very first best friend at Wano High School. I'm proud of you. The lackeys around them had no time to pay attention to him. Instead, they all stared fixedly at Cheolim, because they had already heard that the third years had held a meeting. That meant those people were about to begin their counterattack. All of them wanted to hear what Cheolim planned to do. The classroom door was suddenly shoved open, and a group of people walked in without the slightest restraint. So this is where you all were. I've been looking for you for quite a while. But looking at the aggressive group on the other side, the people around Cheolim were not afraid in the slightest. Neither side wasted a single word on nonsense. The fight exploded immediately. Cheolim also did not hesitate for even a moment and decisively charged in. And after fighting his way out into the hallway, a figure slowly stepped forward. The one who had come was none other than Yohan Jong. A real war had finally begun. Looking at Cheolim as he appeared, Yohan Jong let out a cold laugh and said, Those blue eyes of yours really are hard to forget. Looks like your revenge plan has been going pretty well, huh? Don't glare at me like that. If you scare me so badly that I piss myself, are you going to buy me diapers? Speaking of that, I've seen Sol Kim piss himself before too. The scene shifts back to 3 months earlier. Sol Kim had once been cornered in the bathroom by Yohan Jong and his group, and they actually forced Sol Kim to relieve himself in a plastic basin in front of everyone. After it was over, they even wanted to record the whole scene on their phones. Seeing that Sol Kim refused to do it, Yohan Jong said with contempt, at least this is better than getting beaten. At that moment, all that remained in Sol Kim was humiliation and despair. He wanted to resist, but he simply did not have the courage. Seeing that Sol Kim still had not moved, Yohan Jong finally lost patience. With just a glance from him, the thugs behind him immediately understood and forcibly pinned Sol Kim down, then began pouring something into his mouth. The urge to urinate, which he had already been barely holding back, completely slipped out of control at that moment, and a large patch of Sol Kim's pants was instantly soaked. Yohan Jong was thrilled and immediately took out his phone and started filming like crazy. The scene returns to the present, and Yohan Jong is still provoking him non-stop. What do you think of that video? Do you like it? If you do, I can send you the rest of it too. So it turned out that the person who had sent that video to Cheolim back then was Yohan Jong. At this moment, Cheolim's rage finally spiraled completely out of control, surging straight to his head. He suddenly rushed forward and lunged directly at Yohan Jong. But looking at Cheolim charging toward him, Yohan Jong appeared unusually relaxed. You look pretty scary right now, but I'm not good at fighting, so I'll let someone else play with you. As soon as Yohan Jong finished speaking, Gi-ha Kim suddenly rushed out from the side. The two instantly became entangled in combat, and as Gi-ha Kim fought, he kept spewing trash talk. However, as the person ranked 6th in Wonol High School, Gi-ha Kim's fighting ability was indeed not weak. For a moment, Cheolim was actually unable to gain the upper hand against Gi-ha Kim. Looks like you're nothing special either. Just like that useless Sol Kim, all you do is tied. Gi-ha Kim was so arrogant that he even turned around to show off to Yohan Jong. But at the very instant he turned back, Cheolim had already appeared behind him. By the time Gi-ha Kim reacted, it was too late. He could only watch helplessly as Cheolim's fist grew larger and larger before his eyes, before crashing heavily into his face. The tremendous force instantly blasted Gi-ha Kim away, and his body even slid several meters across the ground. His body slid several meters across the floor, yet even while lying there, Gi-ha Kim still talked tough, saying that this was more like it. Cheolim gave him no chance at all. He pressed the attack immediately and drove another brutal kick into him, completely destroying Gahak Kim's ability to resist. After dealing with Gahak Kim, Cheolim walked toward Johan Jong step by step. Watching Cheolim draw closer and closer, Johan Jong showed no panic on his face, but inside he had already started to lose his nerve. He decisively raised both hands. "If I surrender, will you spare my life?" But there was no way Cheolim could let him go. What he had done to Sol Kim was absolutely unforgivable. The moment Cheolim thought about the suffering Sol Kim had endured, his hand began tightening uncontrollably, and the enormous force instantly left Johan Jong unable to breathe. At that moment, someone unexpected appeared. Cheolim's older sister, Ha Yun-seo, suddenly came to the hallway. When he saw Ha Yun-seo appear so suddenly, Cheolim froze. But before he could say anything, a gust of force suddenly came from behind him. Gahak Kim, who had just been knocked down, suddenly lunged from behind. And before Cheolim could react, Gahak Kim smashed a heavy punch straight into his face. The tremendous force sent Cheolim flying several meters. Ha Yun-seo hurried over to check on him, wanting to ask what had happened. But Gahak Kim's attack was already crashing down again. His size 42 foot came stomping down heavily toward them. Luckily, Cheolim moved fast enough and narrowly avoided the blow. Cheolim seized the opportunity and delivered an upward kick, slamming it hard into Gahak Kim's chin. The chin is packed with nerves, and that kick instantly left Gahak Kim dizzy and disoriented. Seizing the moment, Cheolim clenched his fist and prepared to continue attacking. But Ha Yun-seo suddenly called out from behind him. What Ha Yun-seo hated most was violence. Ever since they were little, Ha Yun-seo had always told Cheolim that violence could not solve anything. Hearing Ha Yun-seo's words, Cheolim hesitated. He had always treated Ha Yun-seo like an older sister, so there was no way he could ignore her. But reality gave him no time to think. Gahak Kim, who had just regained his senses, took advantage of that opening and smashed another punch hard into Cheolim's face. Seeing blood pouring from Cheolim's nose, Ha Yun-seo hurriedly tried to rush over, but another figure was even faster. The one who arrived was Yuzeong, who had come belatedly. Yuzeong managed to block Gahak Kim's attack in time. At this moment, Johan Jong suddenly spoke from the side. "We shouldn't behave like this in front of a teacher. We just wanted to discipline them a little. The first-year students have been causing trouble lately, and that's something you know too, teacher." And just like that, this disturbance was temporarily calmed down. Although Cheolim really wanted to keep fighting, in front of his older sister Ha Yun-seo, he still forcibly suppressed his anger. After watching Johan Jong and his group leave, Yuzeong also tactfully turned and left, leaving space for Cheolim and Ha Yun-seo. On a bench on campus, Ha Yun-seo asked Cheolim whether he had returned to school because of Sol Kim. Hearing that, Cheolim froze for a moment. Because Cheolim had never told his older sister Ha Yun-seo anything about Sol Kim, so how did Ha Yun-seo know? As if she had seen through Cheolim's confusion, Ha Yun-seo said with a downcast expression, "I also came to this school because of Sol Kim." Cheolim was instantly stunned, and he immediately stood up and asked Ha Yun-seo, "Did Sol Kim tell you something? Although I don't know exactly what happened, Sol Kim told me that he was always being punished at school." Cheolim was completely dumbfounded. Why would a good student like Sol Kim be punished? The ones who should really have been punished were clearly those bastards. At that moment, Cheolim was filled with self-blame. Why had Sol Kim rather endure it until the very end than tell him about these things? Ha Yun-seo guessed that maybe Sol Kim felt Cheolim had already sacrificed too much for him. So he did not want to trouble Cheolim with these things anymore. After all, Cheolim had given up high school and gone out to work. All for Sol Kim. Then Cheolim stopped hiding anything and told Ha Yun-seo everything he knew, and said that he had only one purpose in returning to campus, to make those bullies pay in blood. But hearing Cheolim's words, Ha Yun-seo objected. She believed that violence would only bring more violence, and that this was not the right path. The moment he heard that, Cheolim's anger was instantly ignited. "So you mean we should just turn a blind eye to those bastards? Sol Kim is already dead, so what exactly is your grand plan? Make them apologize? Do you know what those bastards did to Sol Kim? Do you really think people as trashy as them would listen to you? They would only laugh at you to your face. I have to destroy them completely, destroy them to the point that they don't even dare think about revenge." As Cheolim said this, he slowly turned and walked away. Ha Yun-seo shouted sharply to stop him. "I know you're in pain right now, but we can't let another student become like Sol Kim. I came here to help more students like Sol Kim, and do you really think Sol Kim would want you to do this? Please, Cheolim. Can't you trust me just this once?" But everything they had just said was overheard by Baek Sung-hyun nearby, and by Yuzeong standing behind Baek Sung-hyun. A crisis of trust was quietly spreading through their group. After talking with his older sister Ha Yun-seo, Cheolim walked alone across the campus. His mind could not help drifting back to his middle school days. Back then, because he got into a fight. The school had summoned a guardian, and after Hyun Seo rushed over, she was actually slapped by the other party. At that moment, the instant he saw the other side make a move, Cheolim completely exploded. The other side had clearly provoked him first, and he had only been acting in self-defense, so why was Hyun Seo the one who ended up hurt? He charged forward on the spot, wanting to get even for Hyun Seo, but his older sister Hyun Seo held him back tightly. That was the first time Cheolim had personally watched his sister endure that kind of humiliation because of him. And it was from that moment on that Cheolim swore he would never again let his older sister Hyun Seo suffer any insult. Then, over the 3 years of middle school, Cheolim built up his reputation step by step and became the boss no one in the entire school dared provoke. Thinking of this, Cheolim's expression darkened completely. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the core first-year members were gathered in Class 2 of the first year discussing countermeasures and thinking about how to deal with the upperclassmen's retaliation. The bespectacled guy suggested ending things quickly and taking the initiative to lead people into a counterattack before the upperclassmen could make the first move. The moment he finished saying that, Cheolim walked in. After seeing Cheolim come in, the bespectacled guy immediately asked what exactly he meant. But no one expected that Cheolim would suddenly say that he was withdrawing, and that from now on, his affairs had nothing to do with them anymore. Haesong was instantly filled with anger. Do you think you can accomplish all this by yourself? Just as Haesong was about to rush up and question Cheolim, Yuzeong stopped him. Yuzeong told them to go back first, saying he would ask about the situation himself. After Yuzeong spoke, Haesong and the bespectacled guy could only leave first. After everyone left, Yuzeong asked Cheolim what had happened. Are you not planning to take revenge anymore, or does this have something to do with that teacher? But Cheolim did not want to explain too much. He only told Yuzeong not to get involved anymore either. Do you think the current situation is still that simple? I don't know what you're really thinking, but this matter is no longer as simple as you think. The entire first year had already been dragged into this, and now no one could stay out of it anymore. After school, Haesong and the others went to the billiards hall, and all of them were very dissatisfied with Cheolim. It was clearly because Cheolim needed help in the first place that they had gathered together, so how could he just say he was quitting and be done with it? They even felt that Cheolim was scared. The bespectacled guy's group was also gathered together discussing this matter. Although the bespectacled guy did not say it openly, he really did have doubts in his heart about what Cheolim had done. Elsewhere, the two red-haired guys in the convenience store were also discussing this. The red-haired one told his companion that he had heard Cheolim's name before at another school. Back then, Cheolim had once been the boss of that school, and at that time Cheolim had even been his upperclassman, though he did not know whether it was the same person. The red-haired one also said that no matter whether Cheolim wanted to quit now or not, he would see this through to the end. The two planned to go talk to the various first-year leaders next week, gather everyone together, and catch the other side off guard. But just as the two red-haired guys were talking, a group of upperclassmen suddenly blocked their way. No need to wait until next week. We can have a good talk right now. Meanwhile, at the billiards hall, Haesong and the other two were also surrounded by a group of upperclassmen. The same thing was happening to the three with the bespectacled guy. All of the first year's leading figures were approached at the same time, and the bespectacled guy and his companion were already close to collapsing just from facing Suyang alone. The bespectacled guy's glasses were knocked clean off. I heard you were the ones who stirred up this whole mess, so I was actually looking forward to it, but the result is very disappointing. Do you really think this is enough to beat the second and third years? The unconvinced bespectacled guy still wanted to fight back, but in the face of Suyang's absolute strength, everything was like an ant trying to shake a tree. Before long, the bespectacled guy and his companion were both beaten to the ground by Suyang. As for the other person, Yang Ho, he had already run away right at the beginning of the fight, and after escaping, the first person he contacted was Yuzeong. After learning the news, Yuzeong did not dare waste even a second and immediately rushed over. After seeing Yang Ho, Yuzeong immediately pressed him about what had happened. Yang Ho told Yuzeong everything about Suyang attacking them, and also said that he had tried contacting the others as well, but he could not reach anyone at all, so presumably the others had all been beaten too. After figuring out the situation, Yang Ho took Yuzeong to the scene. By then the fight was already over, and the bespectacled guy and the other one were lying on the ground covered in injuries. Looking at Jonghan, Yang Ho said guiltily, "I'm sorry, I ran away just now." But Jonghan did not blame him, because at that time someone had to go notify Yuzeong. At that moment, Jonghan suddenly said, "How about we just apologize to them and quietly end this fight? They're really too strong." It seemed that this attack had completely scared Jonghan. After hearing that, Yuzeong said, "Do you think that if we apologize, they'll really let us go?" But Jonghan felt that if we apologize, at least they'll stop. Otherwise, if this keeps going, our school lives will only become more and more miserable. At that moment, the bespectacled guy asked Yuziang, what exactly is going on with Chio Lim? Is he really planning to stand by and do nothing? After hearing this, Yuziang did not answer. He only told the bespectacled guy, go to the hospital first and get your wounds treated. We'll talk about everything else later. The next day, the first-year students were all privately talking about what had happened yesterday. And every bit of it was heard clearly by Chio Lim as he passed by. After walking into the classroom, Chio Lim saw at a glance that Yuziang was sitting in his seat. And after seeing Chio Lim come in, Yuziang spoke directly, saying that everyone else had already been beaten, and that the upperclassmen's next target would most likely be them. But after hearing that, Chio Lim showed no reaction at all. Yuziang could not hold it in anymore, and suddenly stood up. We can go find the second and third-year upperclassmen right now. We don't even need anyone else. Just the two of us are enough. Hearing that, Chio Lim was a little puzzled. Didn't you say that you didn't want to take part in a gamble with no chance of winning? Why have you changed now? I did say that, but the Chio Lim from that other place would never have cared about something like this. Chio Lim was clearly stunned. The fact that Yuziang said this meant he knew about Chio Lim's past. Just as he was about to press Yuziang on who he really was, a voice suddenly interrupted him. Haesong and the red-haired guy had arrived. They were already prepared to go find those upperclassmen and take revenge. Not long before that, Johan Jong had first asked his subordinate how things were going. The subordinate said that the message had already been delivered, and that the first years would go deal with Chio Lim. But when he heard that, Gi-ha Kim beside him immediately asked Johan Jong what exactly he was trying to do. Johan Jong said it was nothing. He had only sent people to deliver a message to the first years. If they still wanted to keep staying at this school, they had to get rid of Chio Lim first. Besides, he had never expected to bring Chio Lim down in one shot anyway, but that guy had one fatal weakness. And that was his older sister, Ha-Yun Seo. Elsewhere, Chio Lim and Yuziang followed Haesong outside. Looking at Yuziang, Haesong said, Yuziang, if we want to keep surviving here, then we have to teach Chio Lim a lesson first. That's what the upperclassmen want. Hearing that, Yuziang froze for a moment. So this is why you called everyone here? That's right, Chio Lim started all of this in the first place, but now even he himself doesn't want to continue. Come here, Yuziang. You should stand with us. There's no need for you to ruin your school life for someone you barely even know. Seeing that Yuziang was still hesitating, Haesong continued, actually, there's another way. That is, Chio Lim can go deal with those upperclassmen right now. If he does that, everything will end. Chio Lim spoke calmly. I already said it. I won't repeat the same thing a second time. Think whatever you want. As soon as those words came out, Haesong slowly pulled his hand out of his pocket. Then it's time for us to teach you a lesson too. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone charged at Chio Lim together. Ha-Yun Seo was teaching class 3 to 4. Looking at Ha-Yun Seo on the platform, Johan Jong and Gi-ha Kim were still whispering below. Gi-ha Kim was a little confused. They were obviously siblings. So why were their last names different? After hearing that, Johan Jong looked at him like he was an idiot. Chio Lim was an orphan, so of course he had no direct relatives. She was probably not his real older sister. She was probably more like an adoptive older sister. Gi-ha Kim finally understood, and then he said carelessly, then I kind of want to ask her out. After hearing that, Johan Jong showed a wicked smile and directly egged him on. Encouraged by that, Gi-ha Kim actually stood up. Teacher, I have a question. Would you like to go out with me? The moment he said that, the entire room instantly fell silent, and Ha-Yun Seo froze too, asking Gi-ha Kim in disbelief what he had just said. After hearing that, Gi-ha Kim actually continued, if you're single right now, you could consider dating me. Hearing that again, Ha-Yun Seo was so angry she was almost about to explode, but she still suppressed her emotions and said, in class, I only answer questions related to the lesson. But Gi-ha Kim still refused to let it go and pressed on. Then after class, can you answer that question for me? The moment those words came out, Ha-Yun Seo was almost trembling with anger. Come to my office after class. At that moment, one student finally could not hold back and laughed out loud. But the instant the laughter rang out, Gi-ha Kim directly slammed that student's head down onto the desk. You think that's funny? What answered him was a brutal beating from Gi-ha Kim. Seeing this, Ha-Yun Seo hurried forward to stop him, wanting Gi-ha Kim to stop immediately. If I stop, will you go out with me? Just as Gi-ha Kim and Ha-Yun Seo were locked in that standoff, Johan Jong's phone suddenly received a message. It was news that Chio Lim was being surrounded and beaten. The scene shifts to Chio Lim's side. Looking at Chio Lim lying on the ground, Yuziang said, why aren't you fighting back? Chio Lim did not answer, and Yuziang continued. Is it because of your sister? She only said one sentence. And now you're going to live like a coward? Chio Lim stared at Yuziang and asked how he knew Ha-Yun Seo was his sister. How could I not know? We went to the same middle school. I was your junior. You may not remember me anymore, but in that school, there wasn't a single person who didn't know you. When you first enrolled, you beat all the upperclassmen and took control of the entire school. Back then, you were a legend in that school. Actually, I don't really care whether you take revenge for Sol Kim or not. I just want to see that powerful Cheol-im become the way he used to be once again. Seeing that Cheol-im still refused to fight back, Yoo-seong angrily demanded, "Are you really not going to avenge Sol Kim? If we do nothing now, then after those third-year upperclassmen graduate, they'll never be punished." But after hearing all of this, Cheol-im's face still showed no reaction at all, and he simply walked outward step by step. He kept walking outward step by step, and Yoo-seong shouted at his back, "It was because of those people that the most important person in your life died. Isn't avenging Sol Kim the reason you came back to school?" Cheol-im's footsteps finally paused for a moment, and then he said word by word, "You're right. Sol Kim was the most important person in my life, but the second most important person is still alive. I don't know what exactly you expect me to become, but I'm no longer the Cheol-im I was in middle school." After saying that, Cheol-im did not stop again and simply turned and left. Watching Cheol-im's departing back, Yoo-seong's thoughts could not help returning to those middle school days. At that time, he was still only a first-year middle school student. In order to take a shortcut to school, he and a classmate accidentally wandered deep into an alley, and there they unexpectedly ran into a group of high school thugs. The moment he saw that group of thugs, his classmate immediately sensed trouble. After shouting "Run," he turned around and fled desperately. But because he was running too fast, he accidentally crashed into a man. That man happened to be holding a cup of coffee, and it spilled all over him on the spot. That instantly enraged the man. And unsurprisingly, what awaited him next was a savage beating. Even Yoo-seong beside him could not escape it. The leader in red grabbed Yoo-seong harshly by the hair. He did not like Yoo-seong's hairstyle and wanted to cut it off with scissors on the spot. But after asking around, it turned out no one nearby had scissors. Just when it seemed the matter might end there, one of the thugs actually suggested using a lighter to burn off Yoo-seong's hair. The man in red immediately showed an excited smile when he heard that. Yoo-seong was shocked and furious. Of course he wanted to fight back, but he was no match for this group of thugs at all. Just when he was almost completely in despair, Cheol-im also happened to walk into the alley and just happened to catch these school bullies picking on Yoo-seong. And the moment he saw Yoo-seong's school uniform, Cheol-im immediately realized that Yoo-seong was a student from his own school. But seeing Cheol-im and another person walk over without the slightest fear, one of the thugs immediately stepped up with a hostile expression. "Do you know what kind of place this is?" After hearing that, the red-haired guy was not intimidated in the slightest. "I'd like to know too. Where exactly are we right now?" Seeing how arrogant Cheol-im and the other guy looked, the other side could not be bothered to waste words and charged all at once. But Cheol-im and the other guy only got more excited and rushed straight at them. During the fight, they even casually made a bet on who could knock down more people. As a famous figure at school, there had originally been no one who did not know Cheol-im. Of course Yoo-seong recognized him too, and at that moment, the image of Cheol-im was carved deeply into Yoo-seong's mind. From that day on, Yoo-seong secretly swore to himself that he would definitely become stronger, and that one day he would stand proudly by Cheol-im's side. And as expected, there was no surprise at all. This group was simply no match for Cheol-im, and before long, all of them had been beaten to the ground. The scene returns to the present. Yoo-seong was sitting alone on campus, and all that kept echoing in his mind were Cheol-im's words from earlier. Third-year Soo-young suddenly walked over to him. "As a student, you really shouldn't be skipping class right now." It was obvious that the few of them had come with bad intentions. Looking at Soo-young and the other two appearing before him, Yoo-seong was puzzled, but before he could speak, Soo-young spoke first. "Didn't we have a deal? As long as you made a move against Cheol-im, we would let you go. So, did you do it?" Yoo-seong looked disdainful. "Let me go? I think the older you get, the more nonsense you talk." Seeing that Yoo-seong refused to stand on their side, Soo-young continued, "Why do you have to protect a nobody like him? Do you really think that bastard Cheol-im has a chance to control the whole school? Don't think too highly of yourself. You'd better just follow us and peacefully enjoy your school life. You know what? I just happen to be in a really bad mood right now. So why don't I use the three of you to have a little fun?" At the same time, in the office, Hyun-seo called Kaha Kim and Yohan Jong over, and she demanded that they write an apology letter. Anyone who did something wrong should accept punishment, and Yohan Jong had to write one too. Looking at the apology letter in his hand, Yohan Jong seemed puzzled as to why he also had to write one. Hyun-seo said that was because Yohan Jong had also participated in the fight the day before yesterday. After hearing that, Yohan Jong seemed to understand something, and then he asked, "Then did Cheol-im write one?" The moment those words came out, Hyun-seo instantly fell silent. Gi-ha Kim chimed in from the side too, saying that they had only been disciplining Cheol-im that time, because Cheol-im often attacked upperclassmen. After saying that, Gi-ha Kim directly leaned close to Hyun Seo. Do you know Chia Lim? Looking at Hyun Seo's reaction, Yohan Jong slowly said, it seems teacher Hyun Seo really does know Chia Lim. If you know Chia Lim, then you must know Sol Kim too. At the mention of the name Sol Kim, Hyun Seo's whole body instantly tensed up. Even her fists unconsciously clenched. The two of you used to bully Sol Kim, didn't you? The two of you used to bully Sol Kim, didn't you? But after hearing that, Yohan Jong directly denied it, saying that at the time they had only been playing with Sol Kim, and that Sol Kim himself had been having fun too. Hyun Seo finally could not hold back anymore. She slammed the desk and stood up at once. What exactly did you do to him? But Yohan Jong still did not answer directly. Even if we really did do something, so what? Did you come to this school to avenge Sol Kim too? I'm a teacher. I didn't come here to avenge anyone. I only came to make sure that people like Sol Kim will never be bullied again. So the two of you had better be careful from now on. I'll record everything and then submit it to the disciplinary committee. But after hearing those words, Yohan Jong and Gi-ha Kim still remained disdainful and paid no attention at all to Hyun Seo's warning. We'll hand in the apology letter soon. Before leaving, Yohan Jong turned back and said, you can go talk to the principal about the disciplinary committee. I think my uncle should be able to give you plenty of advice. The scene shifts back to Yuzeong once more. Seeing that Yuzeong had finally made a move, Suyong said coldly, looks like you really are in a bad mood. The moment he finished speaking, Suyong suddenly lunged and fiercely charged at Yuzeong. The battle instantly erupted, but clearly, neither side was weak. After several exchanges, neither of them managed to gain the upper hand. I heard that you suddenly rose to fame in your second year of middle school and beat everyone senseless. You beat everyone up. Why are you helping Chia Lim? Did he get some kind of leverage on you? If that's really the case, tell me. I can help you destroy Chia Lim with your own hands. While Suyong kept yapping, Yuzeong seized an opening and drove a heavy punch into his stomach. Destroy Chia Lim? Do you really think you can do that? I'm embarrassed for you. I'm embarrassed for you. Yuzeong continued launching a fierce assault on Suyong. Scenes from the past also kept flashing through his mind. I forced myself to keep getting stronger just so I could get closer to Chia Lim. I will never allow Chia Lim to lose. Seeing Suyong's face covered in blood from the beating, the lackeys at the side finally could not hold back anymore. And with a roar, they charged straight in. Looking at the lackeys rushing toward him, Yuzeong's golden pupils instantly shone with a terrifying brightness. After successfully defeating Suyong and the other two, Yuzeong once again recalled the past. Back then, after saving Yuzeong, Chia Lim did not stay any longer and directly prepared to leave with the red-haired guy. But just as the two of them turned to go, Yuzeong shouted loudly to stop them, saying that he wanted to join them too. The red-haired guy did not answer immediately after hearing that, and instead turned to ask Chia Lim what he thought. Chia Lim carefully looked Yuzeong up and down once, said nothing at all, and simply turned and left. Looking at Chia Lim's departing back, Yuzeong could not help complaining, at least give me an answer before you leave. That's really rude. Hearing that, Chia Lim paused and slowly spoke. Go settle things completely with the guy you just beat up. If you can win, then come find me. Hearing Chia Lim say that, Yuzeong seemed to understand something and quietly looked toward the thug on the ground. The scene pulls back to the present once again, just as Yuzeong was still sunk in his memories. Someone suddenly appeared behind him and delivered a vicious kick straight to Yuzeong's head. A vicious kick landed straight on Yuzeong's head, knocking him unconscious on the spot. You shouldn't have done that. The upperclassmen are going to be very angry. At the same time, in the office, Hyun Seo specially printed out some forms, which she planned to distribute to every class in hopes of identifying students who were being bullied. Hearing Hyun Seo's words, the teacher beside her sounded somewhat helpless. Teacher Hyun Seo, why do you insist on doing this? Our school has no such problem. If there really were, the students would definitely come to me. But Hyun Seo did not agree, because victims are often afraid of retaliation, so they do not dare go to teachers. I'm opening a door for them, and at the same time letting the perpetrators know that someone is watching them. That way, victims will find it easier to come to me. But that teacher did not think so. Teacher Hyun Seo, those are just your own thoughts. If you do this, you may very well make the situation here even more tense. While the two were arguing, Baek Sung Hyun walked in and heard all of their conversation. That teacher felt that Hyun Seo was simply taking things too seriously. You only came here this year, so you may not know this, but last year a student died because of bullying. The school still hasn't recovered from that incident, so if you really do this, you may cause major trouble. Hyun Seo said with absolute determination, that is exactly why I have to keep doing this. If someone had been willing to help that student back then, maybe he would never have died. Everyone turning a blind eye was the real reason he was driven into a corner. After saying that, Hyun Seo walked straight out of the office. By the time Hyun Seo stepped outside, tears were already streaming down her face. The scene shifts to Chia Lim. After school, he returned to the orphanage. He looked at Sol Kim's photo and remained lost in thought for a long time. At this point, he was truly beginning to feel confused. He did not know whether he should continue seeking revenge. Avenge Sol Kim was indeed the reason he had returned to school, but Hyun Seo was just as important to him. At that moment, a child pushed the door open and walked in. "Brother Cheolim, someone is here to see you." When that person walked in, Cheolim was visibly stunned. Cheolim was surprised, because the person who had come was the bespectacled guy. He had not expected him to be able to find this place. Looking at the bespectacled guy, Cheolim asked with a puzzled expression, "How did you find this place? How exactly did you find this place?" The bespectacled guy immediately said, "Yuzeong is in the hospital right now. He got into a fight with several second years. I came here to tell you that, and I don't think this is all your fault. Even though you dragged us into this matter, in the end, we were willing to do it ourselves. And the reason we made that decision was actually because of Yuzeong, not because of you. I don't know how you see him, but to us, Yuzeong is a very important friend. I'm not going to force you to fight those guys, but you can at least go to the hospital and see him." After saying that, the bespectacled guy turned and left. Cheolim thought for a long time, and in the end, he still went to the hospital. Then, he saw Yuzeong in the hospital room. At that moment, Yuzeong's injuries were not light at all. Several layers of bandages were wrapped around his head. Cheolim and Yuzeong went downstairs. Looking at Yuzeong, who had been beaten into that state, Cheolim felt uneasy. "I already told you not to get involved." "No, Cheolim, I was only doing what I had to do. The old you was really good to me. You were completely different from those school bully thugs. You were so strong that no one could ignore you. What you said to me always stayed in my heart, so I made up my mind that I had to become stronger. Not long after you said those things, I ran into that group again. That time, I was the one who called them out first, and I finally proved myself. But by the time I truly became stronger, you were already gone from the school. I asked around everywhere and finally found the orphanage where you lived. But when I went there, I didn't see you. Instead, I met Baek-sung Hyun. But I never expected that you would actually return to school again. But with things having turned out like this, maybe the best outcome would have been if you had never come back at all. Violence never truly disappears. If you see it, it hides underground. If you hear it, it retreats even farther. The more you try to eradicate it, the fiercer it becomes instead. Although I don't know what your sister will do in the end, I'm not optimistic about her. On the contrary, I think what your sister is doing now may very well enrage them completely. People only learn fear through pain. You know that better than anyone, don't you? The reason you became this strong in the first place was to suppress violence with even greater force, wasn't it? If you keep going like this, you may end up with even greater regrets. The moment he said that, Cheolim's expression changed immediately, and he hurriedly asked Yuzeong what exactly he meant. But Yuzeong had no intention of explaining further. "You'll know soon enough. I'm curious what choice you'll make when that time comes. Good luck, Cheolim. As your fan, I'll always be cheering for you." It was the start of a new school day again, and at the gate of Wonol High School, students were walking into campus one after another. But just then, a blonde-haired guy in slippers, with a skull tattoo on his leg, slowly walked onto the school grounds. The appearance of this new figure seemed likely to make the school even more chaotic. At the same time, in the school office, Hyun Seo was looking at the forms in her hand, and her mind involuntarily drifted back to the past. At that time, she had gone to see Sol Kim, only to find that he seemed to be desperately hiding something. Before she could see clearly, Sol Kim had already asked her to leave. After going outside, Hyun Seo and Sol Kim chatted idly for a while. At that time, Hyun Seo was actually already preparing for the teacher certification exam. But seeing how listless Sol Kim looked, Hyun Seo never thought in the direction of bullying at all. She only assumed that Sol Kim and Cheolim had had an argument. She even kept trying to persuade Sol Kim not to keep fighting with Cheolim. But after hearing that, Sol Kim repeatedly denied it. After hearing that things between them had not reached an irreparable point, Hyun Seo finally felt somewhat relieved. But Sol Kim suddenly asked in a dispirited voice what kind of teacher she wanted to become in the future. Hearing that question, Hyun Seo thought for a long time before speaking. "How about you tell me first what kind of teacher you want?" Sol Kim fell silent for a moment after hearing that, then finally smiled and replied, "No matter what kind of teacher you become in the end, I hope you go to a peaceful school." After hearing that, Hyun Seo also smiled and looked at Sol Kim. But a few days later, Hyun Seo suddenly received a call from Sol Kim. Hearing Sol Kim's slurred voice, Hyun Seo immediately asked anxiously what had happened. At that moment, Sol Kim finally said the words, "I'm being punished." The moment those words came out, Hyun Seo instantly panicked. "What do you mean? What exactly do you mean by punished?" Hearing Hyun Seo's anxious voice, Sol Kim's hand holding the phone was trembling, and tears kept falling uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, Hyun Seo." After saying that, Sol Kim threw the phone away directly. No matter how Hyun Seo called out to him, there was never any response again. And that call was the last phone call Sol Kim made before jumping to his death. The scene returns to present-day class 3 to 4, where Hyun Seo handed the forms to every student in the class. If you know someone who may need help, or if you yourself need help, just fill out this form and place it on my desk. I will help you. If someone is going through pain, then we have to reach out. What you write will be kept confidential, so don't be afraid. Write down the truth. At the same time, in class 3 to 2, Baek Sung-hyun looked at the form in his hand and did nothing for a long while. He was wondering whether something like this could really be kept confidential. In truth, he was not the only one who doubted it. Everyone else doubted it too. A thug in the class immediately took the lead and tore the form to pieces on the spot. Listen up, all of you. If anything really happens, I'll assume one of you snitched. Yohan Jong and Dae Yang-on, ranked 10th, were sitting together in the pavilion. Seeing the thoughtful look on Yohan Jong's face, Dae Yang-on asked him what was wrong. Is it that form that's bothering you? Yes, it's that female teacher. She's really annoying. She'll probably be going to your class soon too, so go remind the people in your class. Tell them all to keep their mouths shut. By the way, I heard Soo-young and the other two got beaten by Yoo-seong. Yeah, that's right. When I got there, he was still there, so I beat him up too while I was at it. It's a real pity. He was the only first year worth anything. Anyway, we've already cut off Cheo-lim's limbs, so now he can only crawl. By the way, a transfer student came to the second year, and I think he can make the others quiet down. Speak of the devil, and he appears. The moment Dae Hang-on finished speaking, the transfer student in slippers walked over. This place looks nice. Excuse me, is this the smoking area? Hearing that, Yohan Jong looked up at him and said, You're the new transfer student, right? You look like trouble. Why did you transfer here? Hearing Yohan Jong's question, the transfer student said arrogantly, That's my personal business. I don't want to answer you fine. Whether you answer or not isn't important. What matters is your attitude. Then what kind of attitude should I have? Should I kneel and talk to you? Though from the looks of it, you don't seem like that kind of person either. But if you want to stay at this school comfortably, then go bring me a first year named Cheo-lim. Beat him senseless right in front of me. And after that, no one will stop you from smoking wherever you want. But in the very next second, the transfer student drove a vicious punch straight into Yohan Jong's face, instantly sending blood gushing from his nose. How dare you order me around? At the same time, in class 1 to 2, stocky guy was staring blankly at Yoo-seong's empty seat. This stocky guy was the classmate Cheo-lim saved from the thugs on his first day of school. Stocky guy asked the blonde-haired guy why Yoo-seong had not come to school today. Had something happened? But the blonde-haired guy said carelessly that a man sometimes needed to rebel once in a while. After saying that, the blonde-haired guy secretly glanced at Cheo-lim, clearly hoping to get some information from him. But at that moment, the blonde-haired guy also sensed that something was off about Cheo-lim. Over the past 2 days, Cheo-lim had been unusually quiet, as if he were really going through something. The blonde-haired guy began to calculate whether he should use this opportunity to get closer to Cheo-lim. If he could help him, maybe he could win Cheo-lim's favor. Clearly, the blonde-haired guy had been completely won over by Cheo-lim's strength. He wanted to get close to the strong, and now seemed to be the best opportunity. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became, and he decided to act immediately. But just as the blonde-haired guy was about to stand up, the classroom door was suddenly kicked open. Gi-hak Kim and the others had arrived. The moment Gi-hak Kim entered, he roared, Cheo-lim, you bastard, I might even have to transfer schools because of this, so today I'm definitely going to beat the hell out of you. Behind Gi-hak Kim was Lee Kong-min, ranked 7th at Wono High School. The scene shifts to Yohan Jong. After taking a punch from the transfer student, Yohan Jong was lying on the ground and still had not recovered for a long time. I originally wanted to get along with you, since you're my seniors, but what gives you the right to order me around? And the person you wanted me to beat was senior Cheo-lim. The transfer student suddenly making a move naturally also drew Dae Yang-on's attention. Dae Yang-on directly lunged forward and swept a vicious kick toward the transfer student's back. But this transfer student was clearly no pushover either. Facing Dae Yang-on's attack, he neither dodged nor retreated and instead met it head-on with a punch. As the transfer student exchanged blows with Dae Yang-on, he even smiled and said, Looks like this school isn't full of trash after all. But just as they were fighting at their fiercest, Yohan Jong suddenly spoke up and stopped them both. Hey, transfer student, do you have the wrong idea? The Cheo-lim I told you to deal with is a first-year student. Do you call a first year your senior? Hearing Yohan Jong say that, the transfer student was obviously stunned for a moment. The moment he heard the name Cheo-lim, he had overreacted a little. After finally understanding clearly, he scratched his head and said with a smile, Sorry, I thought that Cheo-lim was the Cheo-lim I know. That person is someone I respect. How about you hit me back now? But Yohan Jong did not take the matter to heart at all. Enough nonsense. Just bring Cheo-lim here first. After hearing Johan Jong's words, the transfer student immediately set off eagerly. And none of them knew that Cheolim really might know this transfer student. Cheolim now seemed truly isolated. Looking at the transfer student's departing figure, Dae Yangon looked puzzled. And you're just letting him go like that? Johan Jong revealed a cold, sinister smile. Let's first see how he performs. It won't be too late to deal with him afterward. And by then, we can use even harsher methods. The scene shifts to class 1 to 2. Looking at the two people who had suddenly barged in, the blonde-haired guy immediately felt alarm bells going off in his head. He certainly did not dare provoke people like Gahak Kim. Don't just sit there glaring at me. Stand up and greet me properly. The blonde-haired guy thought Gahak Kim was talking to him. Seeing that, Gahak Kim directly told him to get lost, saying he was not the one he had come for. The moment he heard that, the blonde-haired guy immediately obeyed and slunk off to the side. At this moment, Gahak Kim walked toward Cheolim step by step. That older sister of yours is really giving me a headache. How should I put this? I like her. I originally just wanted to like her quietly, but she keeps handing out those declaration forms everywhere like flyers. But no matter what Gahak Kim said, Cheolim did not say a single word. His gaze simply remained locked tightly on him. That attitude completely enraged Gahak Kim. I'm talking to you, so why aren't you answering? What exactly do I have to do to wipe that expression off your face and make you look at me the way Sol Kim used to? Or maybe I should change targets. Your sister's reaction seems pretty interesting too. Cheolim grabbed Gahak Kim by the collar. His whole body like a completely enraged beast, with a murderous fury that almost seemed ready to burst out of the frame. If you dare touch her, I will kill every last one of you. But after hearing that, Gahak Kim only sneered even more. Just you alone? Lee Kong-min at the side also spoke up. I advise you to think this through carefully, or the consequences will be severe. At that moment, the transfer student also slowly arrived at class 1 to 2. When he got there, he happened to see Gahak Kim and the other guy leaving. After the two of them walked away, he slowly stopped at the doorway. He only took one look at Cheolim from a distance, and the transfer student recognized him instantly, his pupils suddenly widening. After confirming that the person really was Cheolim, the transfer student immediately rushed toward him. Boss, it really is you. Seeing who it was, Cheolim was also stunned. His thoughts were instantly dragged back to his middle school days. Back then, he often gathered on the rooftop with a group of people, and one of them was the red-haired guy who had once fought alongside Cheolim. At that moment, the red-haired guy said to a man in white, "Do you have a younger brother? He really looks a lot like you." After hearing that, the man in white looked disdainful. "What younger brother? I'm an only child." And right after the man in white said that, a second-year middle school student pushed the door open and walked in. After seeing him, even Cheolim could not help feeling that this person really did look a lot like the man in white. "Hello, seniors. My name is Klee. It's a pleasure to meet all of you." The scene returns to the present. Klee asked Cheolim with a puzzled look, "Senior, why are you here?" Before Cheolim could answer, the blonde-haired guy beside them spoke first. "Did you mistake him for someone else?" Cheolim is a first-year student. Before the blonde-haired guy could even finish speaking, Klee grabbed him and lifted him up. "Who the hell do you think you are? Acting so recklessly and calling the boss by name." Seeing that, Cheolim finally spoke. "Put him down first." The moment Klee heard that, he obeyed immediately. "Yes, boss." After that, Cheolim called Klee outside, and then told him everything about why he was in the first year. After hearing it, Klee said he understood. He said that if something like that had happened to him, he probably would have made the same choice as Cheolim. Then Cheolim asked Klee why he had come to class 1 to 2. Klee scratched his head and said his situation was a bit complicated. Of course, there was no way he could say that he had originally come to beat up Cheolim. So he directly stood up and said, "Boss, is there anything I can do for you?" Looking at the lackey in front of him, Cheolim asked suspiciously, "Can you handle it?" After hearing that, Klee replied in a frighteningly ruthless tone, "Just say the word, and I'll kill every last one of them." In the office, Hyun Seo stared at the form in her hands for a long time without moving. Because not only had Gahak Kim not written a single word, he had even brazenly drawn a heart on the form. While she was lost in thought, that teacher walked over again. "Teacher Hyun Seo, go to the principal's office. The principal wants to see you." The scene shifts to Johan Jong. After hearing that Johan Jong had been punched by a second-year transfer student, Gahak Kim laughed himself nearly crazy on the spot. "You actually got hit by a second-year punk. You've really made all of us third-years lose face. Looks like you really do need me to stay by your side and protect you. Why didn't you just have Daeang beat that guy half to death?" Hearing Gahak Kim's mockery, Johan Jong immediately said coldly, "Beat up this brat Gahak Kim first." Listening to the two of them bicker, Dae Yang-on looked speechless. "The two of you are arguing, so why drag me into it?" Johan Jong had no interest in dealing with Gahak Kim at all and only kept staring at his phone. As no message came for a long time, Johan Jong already knew that Klee most likely was not coming, and he could not help cursing Klee in his heart. At that moment, Gi-ha Kim was still pressing him from the side. What's going on? Didn't that Klee guy say he would bring Cheo-lim over? At that moment, Lee Kong-min at the side spoke up. Do you really think Klee would bring Cheo-lim over? Is it possible that the senior Klee respects is the first-year Cheo-lim? After hearing that, Gi-ha Kim's face was full of disbelief. How is that possible? Lee Kong-min continued analyzing. If Cheo-lim repeated a year, then his age really could be older than Klee's. But Gi-ha Kim still could not understand it. If Cheo-lim were really that formidable, why have we never heard his name before? At that moment, Johan Jong interrupted them. I think we'll know the answer very soon. As long as we see whether Klee brings Cheo-lim over, everything will naturally become clear. And just after he said that, the sound of slippers came from far to near. That's right, Klee had arrived. The moment Klee appeared, he did not waste a single word and directly launched a fierce attack. With a whipping kick, he smashed violently toward Dae Yang-on. But Dae Yang-on was, after all, the 10th-ranked fighter at Wono High School, so he was obviously no weakling. He grabbed Klee's lower leg and hurled him away hard. Gi-ha Kim also immediately recognized that the newcomer was Klee. So you played us, huh? Why are you here alone? Where's Cheo-lim? That's what I should be asking. Cheo-lim is my senior. Dae Yang-on could not be bothered to waste any more words with him. And before Klee had fully gotten back up, he drove a fierce knee strike straight into him. Faced with Dae Yang-on's relentless attacks, Klee narrowly dodged with a sliding sweep. Then he countered with a sweeping leg, directly interrupting Dae Yang-on's momentum. Right after that, Klee crouched down to gather power, and blasted a vicious punch straight toward Dae Yang-on's chin. That whole combo forced Dae Yang-on back several meters in one go. Looking at the ruthless Klee in front of him, Dae Yang-on knew that he had to get serious. The instant their eyes met, this battle truly began. Klee quickly discovered that Dae Yang-on seemed able to see through his movements. Every single one of his attacks was actually being blocked. The moment he thought of all the bold things he had said about clearing out these school bullies for Cheo-lim, he started getting anxious. He had even said he would clean them all up for Cheo-lim, but who could have expected that he could not even take down a single Dae Yang-on? But the very moment Klee got distracted, Dae Yang-on seized the chance and slammed a heavy punch into Klee's stomach. That punch hit so hard that Klee's face twisted in pain on the spot. But even so, Dae Yang-on still did not stop, raining down punch after punch like a storm. At that moment, Klee was almost about to lose consciousness, and flashes of the past even began surfacing in his mind. Scene after scene from the past came flooding out all at once at that moment. Back then, when he was still in the second year of middle school, he was chatting with his younger sister Hyejin, discussing where to go for dinner that evening. But just then, one of his companions came running over in a panic. Klee, those thugs from another school are harassing your sister. Hurry and go take a look. Klee instantly panicked. He did not dare waste even a second and immediately rushed toward the scene. But when he arrived, he found that his sister Hyejin was standing there completely unharmed. He hurried over. Hyejin, are you okay? What exactly happened? I'm fine. That older brother saved me. That's right, the one who stepped in to save her was Cheo-lim. At Cheo-lim's feet, a whole group of thugs was already lying on the ground. After seeing Klee arrive, Cheo-lim slowly walked over. I already gave them a harsh warning. They probably won't dare bother your sister again. Hearing Cheo-lim's words, Klee's heart was filled with gratitude, and he immediately asked how he could repay him. After hearing that, Cheo-lim did not know how to respond for a moment. After thinking about it, he finally said, then when the day comes that I'm really in trouble, give me a hand. It was precisely because of this incident that Klee was willing to keep following Cheo-lim. Even now, when Cheo-lim was no longer the boss of Wonol High School, Klee was still willing to risk his life for him. And the moment he thought of all this, Klee's consciousness, which had nearly fallen apart, began gathering itself little by little again. He let out a roar like a lion. Even if this body was already on the verge of giving out, he would still fight to the very end for the promise he had made to Cheo-lim. At the same time, Hyein Seo arrived at the principal's office. After seeing Hyein Seo come in, the principal first asked whether she had already distributed the forms to every class. Hyein Seo nodded and replied, I think our school needs to understand the situation first and see exactly which students need help. But after hearing that, the principal said, I understand your thinking, but the matter has not yet been verified. If we do this, it will inevitably bring some negative effects. Hyein Seo immediately spoke up in rebuttal. The incident has already happened. Even at this very moment, there may be students suffering bullying right now. Are we supposed to just stand by and watch those students continue to be hurt? Hearing that, the principal immediately explained. That's not what I mean. No matter where you are, there will always be people who suffer unfairness, only to different degrees. Punishing the bullies and restoring peace to the campus is of course the ideal state. But do you really think that as long as those school bullies disappear, the school will become peaceful? Maybe once the old ones fall, new ones will soon take their place. You've only just arrived here, so you may not understand yet. Our school is far more complicated than you think. If the students join together and fill out the forms recklessly, some innocent people may instead end up receiving unjust punishment because of it. When that happens, who will take responsibility? When your sense of justice goes too far, it becomes meddling. Hearing the principal's words, Hyun-seo found herself unable to say anything for a moment. The principal continued, I know you and Sol Kim came from the same orphanage, but Sol Kim is already gone. What you need now, I think, is to calm down, reflect carefully, and not act on impulse. If you really want to push for disciplinary action, then I hope you will bring evidence, not just suspicion. Klee exploded with every ounce of strength in his body, wanting to clash with Daehang one last time. But his body was already too badly injured, and the force behind this blow was no longer as sharp as it had been at the beginning. Dae-yang-on merely shifted to the side, and easily dodged it. Looking at Dae-yang-on, who had suddenly appeared behind him, Klee's eyes were filled with disbelief. But what came in the next second was Dae-yang-on's extremely heavy punch, and that punch completely shattered Klee's ability to keep fighting. Although he had already sent Klee to cause trouble for those people, Cheolim still could not let go of the matter with Kahak Kim. His heart remained torn. He wanted to keep the promise between himself and his older sister Hyun-seo, but he was also afraid that something might really happen to Hyun-seo. The best option right now was to go talk to Hyun-seo first. Thinking this, he started walking toward Hyun-seo's office. But just then, he suddenly heard Hyun-seo's voice. Following the sound, he discovered that Hyun-seo was standing in front of two students, one of whom had an arm around the other student's neck. The moment she saw this, Hyun-seo visibly tensed up. She was so afraid of bullying happening right in front of her again that she hurried forward to stop them. But the two students explained that they were only messing around. Hyun-seo simply could not believe it. How could one person grabbing another by the neck possibly be called playing around? Hyun-seo did not believe them at all. She only felt that the bullied student was making excuses for himself. But the two students were also somewhat dumbfounded. They really had just been fooling around, yet this teacher refused to believe them no matter what. That student immediately grew anxious and quickly asked his friend to say something too. Seeing that, the friend also hurriedly explained that they really were very good friends and often joked around like that. Listening to the two of them explain, Hyun-seo did not know what to say for a moment. She worried that the other student was afraid of retaliation and therefore did not dare tell the truth, so she questioned them again. Only after receiving another firm answer did Hyun-seo half-reluctantly stop pursuing the matter, though before leaving, she still reminded the two of them to be more careful in the future. Cheolim, hidden in the corner, heard everything that happened there clearly. Just then, Baek Sung-hyun suddenly appeared at the end of the hallway and happened to run into Cheolim, who was deep in thought. After that, the two found a quiet place, and Cheolim had many things he wanted to talk over with Baek Sung-hyun. Hearing that Cheolim had taken the initiative to talk to him, Baek Sung-hyun was clearly a little surprised, because Cheolim had always given people the feeling of being unapproachable. But in fact, even if Cheolim said nothing, Baek Sung-hyun already knew what was troubling him. Baek Sung-hyun looked quiet and taciturn, but his mind was very clear. Besides, he had previously heard the conversation between Cheolim and Hyun-seo with his own ears. Baek Sung-hyun understood Cheolim's current actions very well, because if there really were a teacher like Hyun-seo in the school, then for everyone like Sol Kim, it would be a kind of salvation. Not everyone has an older brother like Cheolim. After hearing Baek Sung-hyun's words, Cheolim's face showed little reaction. He said word by word, but Sol Kim was not saved. In fact, that sentence alone made it clear that Cheolim had never really let it go. He still wanted to personally settle accounts with those school bullies through violence, but Hyun-seo's appearance had stopped him in his tracks. There was no way he could ignore his older sister's words. But even if he really decided not to listen, if Hyun-seo stood in his way again when the time came, then what could he do? So the current Cheolim was truly trapped. Hearing this, Baek Sung-hyun continued to comfort him. I also hope that those who bullied Sol Kim will all get what's coming to them in the end, repaid in their own way. I think anyone who has ever been bullied would want to personally take revenge on those school bullies. Listening to Baek Sung-hyun's words, Cheolim said in a low voice, is there really no way to make all of this come true? But Baek Sung-hyun had no answer either. If you truly cannot change the situation in front of you, then maybe trying to trust the teacher is also one way. Cheolim frowned even more deeply. More than ever, he wanted to find an answer, but unfortunately, Baek Sung-hyun could not help him either. Hyun-seo returned to the office. She had just been scolded by the principal, and then turned around and experienced that scene in the hallway, leaving her whole mood visibly low. Looking at the forms on the desk, she began struggling inwardly. The principal's words from earlier seemed to still echo in her ears. Although she knew that the principal was not entirely right, faced with the pressure from her superior, she still did not know how to argue back for the moment. As she thought, she casually picked up one of the forms. But the instant she saw what was written on it, her pupils suddenly contracted, as if she had discovered something extremely serious. The scene shifts to Klee. Klee had already been completely beaten to the ground. Gi-hak Kim looked down at Klee on the floor and said with a face full of disdain, "You came charging over all aggressively. I thought you were actually capable of something, but this is all you've got. You're not even worth me making a move myself." Listening to Gi-hak Kim's mocking sarcasm behind him, Klee still could not help turning back to curse at him. Seeing that Klee still had the strength to talk back, Dae Yangon charged up again, and viciously kicked him in the chin. But that kick was still not the end of it, as if he were afraid Klee might still get back up and fight back. Dae Yangon then brutally kicked Klee again and again without mercy while he was lying on the ground. Judging by those heavy blows one after another, that was definitely enough to leave Klee bedridden for days. Just then, Yoon Gyu-min, ranked 9th at Wono High School, and Choi Sung-min, ranked 5th, walked over. The moment he saw the two of them appear, Gi-hak Kim immediately excitedly told Yoon Gyu-min that he had just learned some explosive news. But before Gi-hak Kim could even speak, Lee Kong-min beside him had already said it first. "We suspect that Cheol-in might be a repeat student. If he had not dropped out back then, he would probably be in the same grade as us now." Watching Lee Kong-min steal all his lines, watching Lee Kong-min steal all his credit, watching Lee Kong-min steal all his credit, Gi-hak Kim got so angry that he jumped on the spot. But while the group was still talking, another voice suddenly rang out. "What are you doing?" Everyone turned around to look, and no one had expected it. No one had expected it. The person who had come was actually Ha-yoon Seo. At that moment, Ha-yoon Seo was glaring at them furiously. She had clearly witnessed Dae Yangon brutally beating Klee with her own eyes, and she was even holding up her phone and recording. To be honest, Ha-yoon Seo's reaction this time was not slow. At least she had not been completely blinded by anger and knew to use her phone to collect evidence first. As for why she had found this place, it was most likely related to the form she had just seen. But if you say she was calm, she knew to record evidence. If you say she was not calm, she actually dared to come here alone. Not one of these school bullies would truly respect her. If this group completely lost control and rushed over to snatch the phone, or even did something worse to her, no one could guarantee what the outcome would be. After all, these people were not ordinary thugs at all. They had already driven Sol Kim to jump off a building, yet they could still stand here completely unharmed. That alone was enough to show that there was definitely nothing simple about the forces behind them. Sure enough, after seeing Ha-yoon Seo recording, they were not flustered in the slightest. Gi-hak Kim was the first to walk over. "Teacher Ha-yoon Seo, you really don't know what it means to give up." And as expected, the situation developed exactly as one would imagine. In the very next second, Gi-hak Kim grabbed Ha-yoon Seo by the arm and directly tried to snatch her phone away. Ha-yoon Seo still wanted to use her authority as a teacher to suppress him, but it had no effect at all. Instead, Gi-hak Kim even openly harassed her on the spot, and the phone was forcibly taken from her. But just when Gi-hak Kim was getting carried away with pride while holding the phone, Ha-yoon Seo raised her hand and slapped him hard across the face. That scene made everyone present freeze in shock. No one had expected the seemingly gentle Ha-yoon Seo to be this tough. The one who could not believe it either was Gi-hak Kim. Being slapped in front of so many people made the face-conscious him completely furious. He grabbed Ha-yoon Seo by the hair and yanked her down hard. The intense pain from her scalp made Ha-yoon Seo instantly lose her voice from the pain. But even then, Gi-hak Kim still was not satisfied. Grabbing Ha-yoon Seo, he directly threw her hard onto the ground. Ha-yoon Seo's glasses shattered all over the floor on the spot. The enormous pain left Ha-yoon Seo unable to get up for a long time. The people around her were each colder than the last, as if the person lying on the ground was not a teacher who should have been respected, but merely a stranger who had nothing to do with them. Only after Ha-yoon Seo had completely stopped moving did So-min at the side finally speak up. "Gi-hak Kim, why did you hit a teacher and beat her until she passed out?" Yohan Jong behind him also added, "Hitting a teacher is not the same as hitting a student. This teacher has always been trying to cause trouble for us." This time Gi-hak Kim was truly panicked and hurriedly shouted what they should do now. After hearing that, Yohan Jong's eyes turned cold. "You're the one who hit her. What does that have to do with me?" Just from the reactions of the people around them, it was obvious that although they looked like they were on the same side on the surface, their hearts were not truly together. But someone had to take the fall for this. So who should they pin it on? Yohan Jong said nothing and merely slowly shifted his gaze to Klee, who was lying on the ground. He merely slowly shifted his gaze to Klee, who was lying on the ground. Clearly, he intended to pin all the blame directly on Klee. Cheol-im had absolutely no idea about everything happening here. At this moment, he was wandering alone through the campus without direction, replaying his conversation with Baek Sung-hyun over and over in his mind. But as he walked, he suddenly noticed a crowd of students gathered ahead. Out of instinct, he stepped forward to see what had happened. But the farther forward he went, the more his heart sank, because he heard the surrounding students saying that someone had fallen from the rooftop, and that it was the new teacher. Cheo-lim's whole body instantly froze. The first person he thought of was Hyun Seo, and the scene of Sol Kim jumping off the building also came flooding back wildly at that moment. He stumbled forward, desperately pushing through the layers of people in front of him, forcing his way ahead while frantically praying in his heart that it would not be Hyun Seo. Finally, he reached the very front. When he saw that familiar figure on the ground, it was as if his mind exploded in an instant. He stood there blankly, his eyes full of disbelief. He kept telling himself that this was not real, that this had to be a dream, but the glaring blood on the ground and that familiar staff ID kept telling him again and again that all of it was real. In his mind, all the little moments between himself and Hyun Seo came back uncontrollably. Back then, he had still been very young, living in the orphanage together with Sol Kim. One time, the school held a sports day, and after the competition was over, Cheo-lim watched the other children being accompanied by their parents, his heart full of indescribable envy. That feeling was something children like them, who were orphans, had never truly had. But just as Cheo-lim and Sol Kim were silently watching, a voice suddenly came from the distance. It was Hyun Seo, who had come to see them with food. The moment they saw Hyun Seo suddenly appear, Cheo-lim and Sol Kim were instantly overjoyed, and ran straight toward her. Hyun Seo's appearance gave Cheo-lim some of the very few moments of warmth in his life. And it was precisely at that time that Cheo-lim had already secretly sworn in his heart that he would definitely protect Hyun Seo. Cheo-lim sat outside the emergency room, his eyes completely hollow. Looking at the glaring red light above the emergency room, the pain in Cheo-lim's heart was beyond words. Not long ago, he had just lost Sol Kim, and now Hyun Seo had fallen too. He felt as if the whole world was driving him toward collapse. He began blaming himself madly, blaming himself for not being able to protect Hyun Seo. If he could, he would even have been willing to trade his own life for lifelong safety for Sol Kim and Hyun Seo. And just at that moment, the doctor pushed the door open and came out. Hearing the movement, Cheo-lim immediately stood up. "I'm Hyun Seo's younger brother. How is my sister now?" What the doctor said next made him breathe a sigh of relief, yet also plunged him back into despair. Fortunately, she was brought in time, so her condition is not at its most critical. That in itself is already something of a miracle. The fact that she survived the fall from such a height likely had a lot to do with that patch of bushes, but the impact to her cervical spine was extremely severe, so she will very likely be paralyzed from the neck down. Cheo-lim's eyes widened violently. He simply could not believe that what he had heard was real. He knew very well that Hyun Seo had always been such a proud person. If she learned that she was paralyzed, how could she possibly accept it? So Cheo-lim immediately asked whether there was still any possibility of recovery, but the doctor had no way to give a clear answer and could only say that the patient was still unconscious and that everything would have to wait until she woke up to be judged. At present, Hyun Seo was still in the intensive care unit, and Cheo-lim had no way to visit her for the time being. He would have to wait until she was transferred to a regular ward, so Cheo-lim could only leave the hospital first. After walking out of the hospital entrance, he looked like an empty shell that had lost its soul. Wandering aimlessly down the street, his mind filled with Hyun Seo and Sol Kim. But just then, a slip of paper was suddenly thrown at his feet. He instinctively looked around, but saw no one, so he bent down and picked up the note to take a look. But the moment he read it, the expression in his eyes changed instantly. After seeing clearly what was written on it, his gaze suddenly became vicious to the extreme, and the murderous intent he could not suppress almost spilled straight out of his eyes. Because this paper was the very form Hyun Seo had originally handed out. It had no signature, and there was only one line written on it. It said that the school rooftop was the place where that group of school bullies often gathered, and that many students were taken there to be beaten. Cheo-lim knew that this form had been distributed by Hyun Seo, and now it seemed that Hyun Seo's fall from the building was very likely tied to this form. At that moment, Klee suddenly called out to Cheo-lim from behind. After hearing Klee's voice, Cheo-lim slowly turned around. But when Cheo-lim got a clear look at Klee, he discovered that Klee had already been beaten until he was almost unrecognizable. He immediately rushed forward and demanded to know what had happened. After hearing that, Klee spoke with grievance and guilt in his tone, saying that he had originally wanted to help Cheo-lim, which was why he had gone to the rooftop, but he had never expected that in the end he would instead completely ruin everything. The moment he heard that Klee had also gone to the rooftop, Cheo-lim's pupils shrank sharply. "You went to the rooftop too, so you must have seen Hyun Seo. Was it those bastards who pushed Hyun Seo down?" But faced with Cheo-lim's questioning, Klee did not answer immediately. Instead, he stayed silent for a long time before finally speaking. And the moment Klee spoke the truth, Cheol-im froze completely on the spot, because Klee said that the person who pushed Hyun Seo off the rooftop was him. It was as if Cheol-im had been struck by lightning on the spot. His whole body stiffened, and for a long time he could not say a single word. After he fully understood Klee's words, the anger in Cheol-im's heart finally exploded completely. He grabbed Klee by the throat and directly lifted him up. At that moment, Cheol-im truly intended to kill him. But even though his rage was already impossible to suppress, Cheol-im still forced himself to calm down and stared at Klee, asking him whether he was joking about something like this. Cheol-im's hand was like an iron clamp, squeezing so hard that Klee could barely breathe. Klee struggled to speak, saying that he had been forced by that group. After Hyun Seo was knocked unconscious, Yohan Jong and Lee Kongmin discussed making Klee take the blame for it. Then Yohan Jong walked over to Klee and said to him, "I need you to do one thing for us. Do you see that teacher? Push her off the rooftop." Klee froze on the spot, but before he could even refuse, Yohan Jong had already said with a dark expression, "Don't rush to refuse. If you don't do as I say, then we don't mind going to have a little fun with hygiene." Klee's pupils contracted sharply. He had no idea why the people in front of him knew about his younger sister's existence. But that was no longer the key point. The key point was that if he did not obey, then his sister would definitely be in danger. Klee had not dealt with these people much, but he knew very clearly that they were ruthless and capable of anything. But asking him to personally push Cheol-im's sister off a building was also something he absolutely could not do. The moment his anger surged to his head, he clenched his fists and charged forward. But before he could even get close, Dae Yangun stopped him. At that moment, Yohan Jong continued, "Something you can do. Why can't we do it? Why do you think you transferred to this school? Did you think I didn't know? If you can force yourself onto other little girls, then why can't we go have a good time with your sister?" At that moment, Klee's psychological defenses completely collapsed. Even Gahak Kim at the side could not help sneering as he added fuel to the fire. "How ridiculous. You act so respectful toward your seniors and so eager to help people, but from beginning to end you're just trash. Quick, tell me what school his sister goes to. I want him to get a proper taste of what pain feels like too." Watching Gahak Kim turn around and start to leave, Yohan Jong still wore a smile on his face as he continued pressing him. "Have you thought it through? He really is about to leave. Although we'll record evidence of you pushing the teacher down, publicly we'll say that the teacher accidentally fell by herself." Listening to the sound of Gahak Kim's departing footsteps, Klee finally could not hold on any longer. "I'm sorry, Senior Cheol-im. That's the whole reason, but I really only wanted to save my sister." Hearing this, Cheol-im slammed Klee hard to the ground. In the end, he still let Klee go, because he knew that even without Klee, there would certainly have been someone else. Hyun Seo's ending would not have changed because of that. The real culprits were those beasts. But even so, he still had no way to accept that the person who had personally pushed Hyun Seo down would turn out to be Klee. So he turned around and walked away without looking back. Watching Cheol-im's departing figure, Klee kept apologizing without stop. Cheol-im did not turn back and only coldly threw out one sentence, "Don't let me see you again." After saying that, Cheol-im walked outward step by step. With every step forward, the anger in his heart grew heavier. He was going to find those beasts, and he was going to tear those beasts apart with his own hands. The scene shifts to the rooftop. Gihak Kim was looking down below, and he seemed extremely satisfied with his handiwork. You could tell from the twisted smile on his face that these school bullies could no longer even be considered human. They were nothing but beasts wearing human skin. After doing something like this, they did not feel the slightest bit of guilt. Instead, it was as if they were admiring a finished work of their own. Those other school bullies also remained completely unmoved, as if this were just some trivial little matter. As for the news that Hyun Seo had become vegetative, they did not care at all. As long as Hyun Seo would no longer threaten them in the future, that was enough. At that moment, Lee Kongmin suddenly spoke up. "Cheol-im has probably already gone mad by now. He'll most likely come looking for us." But Gahak Kim did not care at all. He simply did not think Cheol-im was that frightening. But he would soon pay the price for his arrogance, because he was about to find out just how terrifying a completely enraged Cheol-im really was. Only Yohan Jong seemed to have already guessed something. "Do you really think you can beat Cheol-im?" Gihak Kim looked confused and immediately asked Yohan Jong whether he had discovered something. But before Yohan Jong could speak, Choi Hyang Cheol, ranked 8th at Mono High, pushed the door open and walked in. "Didn't you say everyone was here already? I wanted to make a cool entrance like the main character." "Yeah, Kim, why are you still here? How come you didn't go spend a few days in the police station first?" Hearing Choi Hyang Cheol say that, Gihak Kim's face darkened, and he was just about to curse back. But suddenly, he saw a hand reach from behind and press directly onto Choi Hyang Cheol's face. With a loud bang, Choi Hyang Cheol's whole body was slammed hard into the iron door, and blood instantly splattered everywhere. Seeing that Cheolim had actually found this place, Gihak Kim immediately realized that it had to be that guy Klee who had told Cheolim everything. As Cheolim walked toward them step by step, Gihak Kim and the others had already taken up fighting stances. But at that moment, a hand suddenly stabbed fiercely toward Cheolim's ankle. With a wet stab, Cheolim's ankle was instantly pierced, and blood immediately began pouring out. The one who had launched the sneak attack was Choi Hyung-cheol lying on the ground. While Cheolim was not paying attention, he had actually picked up a shard of broken glass from the floor and struck back. Seeing that Choi Hyung-cheol could still move, Cheolim's eyes darkened, and he turned around and immediately delivered a vicious kick straight to Choi Hyung-cheol's face. To make sure Choi Hyung-cheol had no chance of standing up again, Cheolim lifted his leg and stomped him wildly, each kick carrying fury that could not be suppressed, as if he wanted to smash all of his rage into him. And that attack from Choi Hyung-cheol just now seemed to have had no effect on Cheolim at all, or rather, the current Cheolim could no longer feel pain. Only after Cheolim's final kick landed did Choi Hyung-cheol completely lose the ability to fight. Next, it's your turn. Don't worry, not a single one of you is getting out alive today. Hearing Cheolim say that, Dae Yang-on at the side finally he could not stay seated any longer and was just about to get up, only to be stopped by Gihak Kim with one hand. Sit down. None of you are taking him from me. He's mine. After taking care of Choi Hyung-cheol, Cheolim walked toward them step by step. Then, with a sudden burst forward and a turn, he charged straight at Gihak Kim like he meant to kill him. Everyone present had originally thought that Gihak Kim would at least be able to trade a few rounds with Cheolim. But no one expected that after only 3 moves, Gihak Kim would be struck heavily in the head by Cheolim's fist. Between true fighters, victory and defeat are often decided by the finest margin. One mistake is enough for everything to collapse completely. The moment Gihak Kim took that punch, his body instantly stiffened. Cheolim gave him no chance to catch his breath and followed immediately with an uppercut that blasted hard into Gihak Kim's chin. But this was still far from over. What followed was completely one-sided domination by Cheolim. With elbow strikes and knee blows flowing together into one relentless sequence. He beat Gihak Kim so thoroughly that he did not even have the right to resist anymore. Every time Cheolim threw a punch, the image of Hyun-seo in the hospital room flashed through his mind. Choi Hyung-cheol, ranked 8th at Wonul High, and Gihak Kim, ranked 5th, had officially been defeated. No one had imagined that Cheolim, pushed to the absolute limit of rage, would become this terrifying. Even seeing that Gihak Kim was already lying on the ground with only a breath left in him, Cheolim's anger did not weaken in the slightest. Instead, it burned even fiercer. In the end, he actually grabbed Gihak Kim by the hair and hurled him out hard. Everyone had originally thought that Gihak Kim was really going to die from that throw. But unexpectedly, Lee Kong-min suddenly moved and grabbed the nearly falling Gihak Kim, forcibly pulling him back. That was how Gihak Kim barely managed to keep his life. Lee Kong-min and Dae Yang-on also finally realized that Cheolim was not someone they could deal with casually at all. They had to attack him together. Seeing that Cheolim had become this ferocious, Dae Yang-on could no longer hold back and launched the first attack. Although he had long heard Cheolim's name, this was the first time Dae Yang-on had truly faced him. Dae Yang-on grabbed Cheolim by the collar, wanting to gain the upper hand first with a knee strike. He had thought the attack was certain to land, but unexpectedly, Cheolim shifted to the side and dodged it directly. This move had almost never failed Dae Yang-on in the past, but Cheolim had avoided it so easily that even Dae Yang-on himself froze for a moment. But that one opening was enough. Seizing the chance, Cheolim threw a straight punch and smashed it hard toward Dae Yang-on. The punch was fast, ruthless, and accurate. Dae Yang-on had no time to react and could only take it head-on. The enormous force instantly blasted Dae Yang-on away, and he only barely stopped after rolling all the way to Gihak Kim's side. Cheolim, who had originally still looked down on Dae Yang-on a little, completely put that slight contempt away at this moment. He knew that from here on, he had to go all out. Otherwise, what had just happened to Choi Hyung-cheol and Gihak Kim could become his own fate at any time. But just as Cheolim was about to continue pressing the attack, he suddenly felt a gust of force coming from behind. He immediately ducked, just barely avoiding Lee Kong-min's sneak attack. This time, it was Lee Kong-min who was stunned. This monster Cheolim had reactions so fast it was as if he had eyes on the back of his head. Was even a sneak attack useless against him? But in a fight, there is no time to stand there in shock, because in the very next second, Cheolim was already lunging at him. Cheolim moved at a terrifying speed and directly clamped a hand around Lee Kong-min's throat, then smashed him hard into the ground. The horrifying force shook Lee Kong-min so violently that it felt as if his organs were about to split apart, and blood instantly sprayed from his mouth. Right after that, Cheolim raised his fist and slammed it down hard at Lee Kong-min. But at that moment, Dae-hyang-on rushed back as well and landed a heavy punch on Cheo-lim's face. Everyone thought that this punch would at least force Cheo-lim to stop, whether it was Dae-hyang-on or Lee Kong-min. None of them expected what happened next. The reality far exceeded everyone's expectations. Cheo-lim acted as if he did not feel it at all and threw another heavy punch at Lee Kong-min. No matter how Dae-hyang-on hit him, Cheo-lim simply would not let go. Punch after punch, Lee Kong-min's face was instantly battered until it was covered in blood. Everyone at the scene was dumbstruck. No one had expected that Cheo-lim would not only be absurdly strong, but also able to withstand this much. In his berserk state, Cheo-lim was truly terrifying. No wonder he had once been the boss. Seeing that Cheo-lim still refused to stop, Dae-hyang-on, shocked, continued attacking and directly turned his body to throw a full power punch. He wanted to use this blow to completely take Cheo-lim down. But in the next second, his fist hit nothing but air. Cheo-lim had already disengaged from Lee Kong-min. Cheo-lim was ruthless, but he was not stupid. If Dae-hyang-on's punch had landed cleanly on the back of his head, then no matter how strong he was, he would definitely have lost the ability to fight instantly, because the back of the head is the most fragile part of the human body. At this moment, Cheo-lim leaped high into the air, and before Dae-hyang-on could regain his bearings, he smashed a punch hard into Dae-hyang-on's face. Then he turned and followed up with a kick, but Dae-hyang-on rolled away and dodged that one. After taking 2 solid punches from Cheo-lim, Dae-hyang-on was already close to his limit as well, with blood continuously dripping from the corner of his mouth. He truly had never expected that in such a short time, out of the 4 of them, only he would still be standing. At that moment, he suddenly remembered what Johan Jong had told him before. Yesterday, Johan Jong had called him to the athletic field and told him that Cheo-lim would probably come looking for them tomorrow. We made his sister end up like that, and now there is nothing left that can restrain him. He is probably already angry beyond measure. After hearing Johan Jong say that, Dae-hyang-on had asked whether he alone would be able to handle Cheo-lim. But Johan Jong had not given a definite answer, because even he himself did not know just how strong Cheo-lim really was. Dae-hyang-on had originally thought that no matter how strong Cheo-lim was, he should at least be able to trade a few rounds with him. But now that they had actually fought, he discovered that the gap was this enormous. On the battlefield now, the only one who could truly keep fighting was him alone. Johan Jong did not count as fighting strength at all. From beginning to end, he was just someone who played dirty tricks. While thinking this, Dae-hyang-on slowly stood back up. A battle like this was actually becoming more and more interesting. Looking at Cheo-lim standing there silently, Dae-hyang-on suddenly burst forward and charged straight at him with astonishing speed. But no one expected that when facing Dae-hyang-on's attack, Cheo-lim would neither dodge nor avoid it, and would instead take it head-on. Seeing that Cheo-lim still did not move, Dae-hyang-on had no time to think about why Cheo-lim was standing there without dodging, and directly swept a kick toward Cheo-lim's ankle, the exact place where Cheo-lim had been injured at the beginning. But even when facing that kick, there was still no change at all in Cheo-lim's expression. In the next second, Cheo-lim moved, still as a mountain, moving like thunder. After dodging Dae-hyang-on's attack, Cheo-lim grabbed him by the collar, and yanked him hard in one direction. Dae-hyang-on instantly lost his balance, and one knee slammed heavily into the ground. And before he could steady himself again, Cheo-lim's fist was already blasting straight toward his face. But strangely enough, Cheo-lim clearly could have continued the assault and crippled Dae-hyang-on completely. Yet Cheo-lim stopped instead and let Dae-hyang-on off. And there was only one reason. Just now, Dae-hyang-on had suddenly mentioned Sol Kim. It was only after hearing the name Sol Kim that Cheo-lim's attack stopped in that very instant. As he listened to Dae-hyang-on speak, some things from Sol Kim's past also began to slowly surface. That was the first time Dae-hyang-on had met Sol Kim. At that time, Sol Kim was being surrounded and bullied by a group of school thugs. From what those people were saying, Dae-hyang-on learned that they were all acting under Tae-young's orders and came every day to take care of Sol Kim. At that time, Dae-hyang-on did not step in. He only stood to the side and watched quietly. Watching Sol Kim get bullied again and again, he even began to feel a little sympathy. So he asked Sol Kim, "Why do you only get beaten and never fight back? Why don't you resist, or at least do something? If you do nothing, none of this will ever change." Hearing Dae-hyang-on's words, Sol Kim staggered to his feet from the ground. He spoke stubbornly. "Some things can definitely be changed. I will bring all of this to an end with my own hands." Dae-hyang-on only felt it was a pity. At the time, he thought that was nothing more than an excuse Sol Kim used to cover up his own cowardice. But in fact, even back then, Sol Kim had already formed the intention to kill himself. He wanted to use his own death to bring an end to this era of school bullies running rampant. But reality had never turned out as he wished. Even after Sol Kim jumped to his death, those school bullies still did not receive the punishment they deserved. And besides, this was never a choice that should have been made in the first place. The ones who were wrong were those bullies, so why was the one who ended up paying with his life himself? Only after saying all this did Dae-hang finally understand what Sol Kim had meant by those words back then. If Sol Kim were still alive now, I would apologize to him. But those words only made things worse. The more Dae-hang charged, the heavier Cheol-im's anger grew. As soon as Dae-hang finished speaking, Cheol-im charged at him again. But no one expected that this time, Dae-hang actually managed to withstand Cheol-im's offensive. From the force behind Cheol-im's attacks, Dae-hang could clearly feel that Cheol-im's strikes had already begun to weaken. After going through such a fierce battle, Cheol-im had finally grown tired. Dae-hang also made up his mind to start counterattacking and to bring Cheol-im down hard. But Dae-hang forgot that if Cheol-im's strength had already weakened, then how much better could his own condition really be? From the very beginning until now, Cheol-im had mostly been burning through stamina. The injuries he had actually suffered were not that severe. But Dae-hang was completely different. From the moment he faced Cheol-im, he had been taking hits the whole time. Although he was still barely holding on now, he had long since already reached the end of his strength. Sure enough, the moment Dae-hang launched his counterattack, Cheol-im caught an opening and smashed a heavy punch into his face. Blood splattered instantly, and even his pupils began to lose focus. With that punch landing, Dae-hang completely lost the ability to continue fighting. Now, only Cheol-im and Yohan-jong were left standing. Yohan-jong could not help cursing inwardly. Although there was still not much expression on his face, he knew very clearly that this time he was truly finished. Looking at Yohan-jong's nauseating face, the very aura around Cheol-im changed. Cheol-im had long wanted to cripple this vicious and despicable man with his own hands. After Sol Kim jumped to his death, Yohan-jong and Mak-yong had gone to the school athletic field to discuss how to deal with the matter. Mak-yong's idea was to make everyone keep their mouths shut and never bring it up again. But Yohan-jong felt that if they only relied on fear to suppress the students, things would lose control sooner or later. Standing behind them, Tae-soo listened to their conversation and slowly said, "Don't worry, it won't be long before I transfer schools. Once I'm gone, this matter will naturally die down little by little." Hearing Tae-soo's words, Yohan-jong was confused. He simply could not understand why Tae-soo wanted to do that. If you were planning to bear the consequences alone, then why did you tell us to go bully Sol Kim in the first place? You only told us to beat him, but you yourself never personally laid a hand on him even once. Tae-soo did not answer that question. Instead, he asked Yohan-jong, "You should still have videos of bullying Sol Kim on your side, right? In a little while, I'll give you a phone number. Send those videos there. You don't need to worry about who that number belongs to, because before long, you'll naturally find out." And now, Yohan-jong did indeed know, and he had even taken a solid punch from that person. But at this moment, Cheol-im still knew nothing at all about Tae-soo's existence. He only believed that Yohan-jong was the true mastermind. So in this moment, Cheol-im poured all of his anger onto Yohan-jong. Punch after punch, he smashed hard into Yohan-jong's head. At this moment, Cheol-im seemed completely unable to feel fatigue, his fists falling non-stop as if he wanted to beat out every bit of rage inside him. Even though Yohan-jong had already been beaten until his face was covered in blood, Cheol-im still did not stop. Seeing that he really was about to be beaten to death, Yohan-jong finally spoke. "They all say the most terrifying people are the ones who have already lost everything. I finally understand it now. You really are terrifying now. But do you know something? Maybe you still have things left to lose. Aren't you curious why I sent you that video about Sol Kim? Once you know the truth, you'll definitely be shocked." Cheol-im grabbed Yohan-jong by the hair and directly lifted him up. "Stop talking nonsense. None of that matters anymore. I'm actually very nervous too, you know? I was always afraid Sol Kim would tell you the truth. If that happened, everything would go out of control. In a certain sense, I'm a victim too." The moment Yohan-jong mentioned Sol Kim again, the fire in Cheol-im's heart exploded once more, and the fist that had just stopped swung out again. "Because of you, you originally had a chance to stop all of this earlier, but now it's already too late. Sol Kim is dead, and Hyeon Theo is paralyzed. In the end, the person who really deserves to be blamed is actually you. All of this happened because of your ignorance. Everything is your fault." Every word from Yohan-jong was like a knife stabbing viciously into Cheol-im's heart. Even when Cheol-im told him to shut up, Yohan-jong still would not stop. That mouth of his kept on talking. The utterly enraged Cheol-im could no longer hold back at last. He directly shoved his hand into Yohan-jong's mouth. As Cheol-im's fingers slowly began to exert force, the corners of Yohan-jong's mouth started being torn open by force. Images of Sol Kim and Hyeon Seo also flashed wildly through Cheol-im's mind. A shrill scream instantly rang throughout the entire rooftop. After settling all of this, the anger in Cheol-im's heart finally seemed to have been completely burned out. Looking at Yohan-jong rolling on the ground and screaming nonstop, Cheol-im's entire mind fell into blank emptiness. His eyes were hollow, and he did not even know what he was thinking anymore. But right at that moment, a hand suddenly pressed against Cheol-im's face. Having relaxed for an instant, Chio Lim had actually failed to notice someone approaching. In the next second, Chio Lim was sent flying outright. The person who had arrived was Ji Min, ranked second at Wonil High. Looking at the 5 people already lying on the ground, even Ji Min's eyes flashed with surprise. For a moment, he could not even understand what had happened. Could it be that Chio Lim had taken all of these people down by himself? The moment Chio Lim saw the person who had suddenly appeared, his eyes instantly turned cold again. That hollow feeling from just now vanished without a trace in the blink of an eye. But only when the view pulled back did it become clear that almost all the school bullies had arrived. Standing in the middle was Ma Qiang, ranked first at Wonil High. On the right was Choi Sung-min, ranked 5th. The 2 on the left were Hae Gun, ranked 3rd, and Yoon Min, ranked 9th. Looking at Chio Lim on the other side, Ma Qiang spoke first. "Hey, do you still have the strength to fight?" Before Chio Lim could answer, the school bullies suddenly parted and made a path. A figure slowly came into everyone's view. The one who had arrived was Taisu, the boss of Wonil High, and the mastermind who had ordered everyone to bully Sol Kim. But the moment Chio Lim saw clearly who it was, he froze completely, his eyes filled with disbelief. Because this person was the partner Chio Lim had once trusted most, the right-hand man who had once stood beside him. No matter what, Chio Lim had never imagined that the person he had once known best would turn out to be the one who had started all of this. "Long time no see, Chio Lim. You really haven't changed at all." Looking at Taisu standing before him, Chio Lim's thoughts were involuntarily dragged back to the past. Back then, they had been such close friends that they could not have been any closer. Their bond could even be traced back to elementary school. When he had just started elementary school, Chio Lim had not yet become the way he was now. He had once studied seriously and wanted to work hard to live a good life. But because Chio Lim and Sol Kim were both orphans, they were often bullied by the other children. And back then, it was also at that time that Chio Lim and Sol Kim began walking down 2 completely different paths. When faced with bullying from classmates, Sol Kim chose to tell the teacher everything, hoping the teacher would stop it from continuing. But Chio Lim felt that he had to do something himself, or things would only get worse and worse. But after hearing Chio Lim's thoughts, Sol Kim seriously tried to persuade him. "My sister said that if you respond to violence with violence, then in the end you'll become the same kind of person they are, and revenge will only bring new revenge." Although Chio Lim did not agree with what Sol Kim said, at that time, he still held himself back and did not strike immediately. But sure enough, it did not take long. Because Sol Kim had told the teacher what happened, what awaited him was not an end, but even fiercer retaliation. Sol Kim's desk was scribbled all over in a complete mess. After school, Chio Lim had just walked out of the school gate when he heard a disturbance coming from a corner. When he looked over, he discovered that Sol Kim was being surrounded and beaten by a group of people, and even his glasses had been knocked onto the ground. Seeing Sol Kim beaten so badly that he could not even open his eyes, Chio Lim completely exploded in anger and rushed at that group in a single stride. At that time, he did not care at all about the difference in numbers, and he did not care about the odds of winning or losing either. There was only one thing in his mind: save Sol Kim and hit them back hard. It was also that battle that completely began Chio Lim's fighting life. From then on, he was either fighting or on the way to a fight. It was also in a later conflict that he came to know Taisu. That time, Chio Lim was being ganged up on by a group of students and could not spare any attention to look after Sol Kim. The result, of course, came as no surprise. Sol Kim was beaten again, and Taisu was the one who appeared at that moment. The moment Taisu showed up, he first saved Sol Kim, and then together with Chio Lim, he beat that group of students to the ground. When Chio Lim first met Taisu, he was still the kind of person who was quiet and cold. But as time passed little by little, Chio Lim, Sol Kim, and Taisu gradually became almost inseparable friends. Looking at his former companion now standing on the opposite side, Chio Lim's eyes were full of disbelief. And at this moment, Chio Lim had still not truly realized that Taisu was the mastermind behind everything. He spoke in a low voice. "Taisu, why are you here?" But when Taisu said that this had originally been the school he used to attend, Chio Lim only grew more confused. If Taisu had once been at this school, then he should have seen Sol Kim before. So why had Taisu never once stepped in to help him when Sol Kim was being bullied? But after Chio Lim asked that question out loud, the answer Taisu gave left him completely stunned. Because Taisu personally admitted that everything had been arranged by him. Whether it was the bullying Sol Kim suffered at school or the video later sent to Chio Lim's phone, all of it had been arranged by him alone. Chio Lim simply could not accept why the person who had once stood shoulder to shoulder with him would do something like this. The image of Sol Kim falling from the building, the scene of Hyeon Seo being pushed down, the things Yuseong had said, and the things Yohan Jong had left unsaid all flashed wildly through Chio Lim's mind at this moment. It was as if Chio Lim was asking himself, and also questioning Taisu, was all of this really done by you? And when Taisu once again gave an affirmative answer without the slightest hesitation, Chio Lim finally lost control completely. His blue eyes seemed to light up all at once, and he burst forward, lunging straight at Taisu. But when faced with Chio Lim's charge, Tyson did not move at all. Because he did not need to make a move personally. The people at his side had already stopped Chio Lim first. Jiaimin grabbed Chio Lim's clothes from behind, while Ma Qiang smashed a vicious punch directly into Chio Lim's face, and the force behind it was astonishing. As Ma Qiang's heavy punch came crashing down, Chio Lim was blasted several meters away on the spot. Before Chio Lim could even catch his breath, Ma Qiang's second wave of attacks had already come after him. That massive fist came crashing down from above. Fortunately, Chio Lim raised both arms in time to block it. Otherwise, if that punch had landed cleanly, the consequences would definitely have been unbearable. But after seeing Chio Lim take his punch head-on and still be able to fight back, Ma Qiang was already somewhat shocked, though what truly surprised him was still to come. Chio Lim's arms suddenly erupted with astonishing strength, forcibly knocking Ma Qiang's attack back. Then, seizing that opening, he rolled and got back to his feet. Ma Qiang's eyes were full of disbelief. He had never expected that after being smashed down like that, Chio Lim could actually stand up again. In the next second, Chio Lim burst forward and lunged violently at Ma Qiang, trying to take him straight down. But just when Ma Qiang's body had already begun to lose balance and looked close to falling, he still managed to plant himself firmly by relying on the strength of his lower body. Feeling the terrifying strength coming from Ma Qiang's legs, even Chio Lim had to admit that this guy's physical power was unbelievably great. Watching the fight between the two, Hae-gun at the side could not help asking Taisu whether Ma Qiang could actually beat Chio Lim. But just as Taisu was about to answer, a voice suddenly came from behind them. "What are all of you doing gathered here?" The people who had arrived were Kong Jinyang of Hanjin High School and Yeo Min-hyuk of Hanjin High School. Hanjin High School was the school Taisu had transferred to later, and these two were the new friends he had met there. Yeo Min-hyuk slowly walked over to Taisu's side. "You came all the way back to this school just for this guy?" And at this moment, the fight between Chio Lim and Ma Qiang had already reached its fiercest point. Chio Lim was hugging Ma Qiang tightly, desperately trying to throw him down. But Ma Qiang was also continuously smashing his elbow into Chio Lim. That heavy force struck Chio Lim again and again until he could barely breathe. Finally, after the fourth heavy blow landed, Chio Lim let go. He instinctively tried to step back, but Ma Qiang seized the chance and smashed a heavy punch into his face. For Chio Lim, who was already close to his limit, this blow was almost a fatal hit. That punch nearly made Chio Lim lose consciousness. In the instant his head turned to the side, his gaze suddenly swept over Taisu. Even now, he still could not understand why Taisu had done all this. As Chio Lim's consciousness began to waver, he suddenly remembered a conversation he had once had with Sol Kim. It had been a sunny afternoon. After Chio Lim returned to the orphanage, he found that Sol Kim had already come back first. He asked Sol Kim how things were going at the new school. Sol Kim said he was doing okay at the new school. But looking at Sol Kim's expression, it seemed like there was still something he had not said, though at the time, Chio Lim had not noticed that anything was wrong. After a long while, So Kim suddenly asked Chio Lim whether something had happened between him and Taisu. Hearing So Kim suddenly bring up Taisu, Chio Lim was also taken aback. In the next second, Chio Lim seemed to realize something and immediately pressed So Kim, asking whether Taisu was also at that school. But after hearing that, So Kim denied it in a flustered way, saying no, he had only suddenly thought of Taisu and casually asked. Back then, during middle school, Taisu really had transferred away all of a sudden without saying a single word. In response to Sol Kim's questioning, Chio Lim had only told him that he also did not know why Taisu had transferred. He had only heard that it seemed to be because of his parents, but now that you mention it, I also do think that Taisu really changed a lot back then. Even after remembering all this, Chio Lim still could not figure out what Taisu had gone through back then. But the current situation simply gave him no time to keep thinking it over. Ma Qiang drove a knee hard into Chio Lim's face. That blow completely scattered the very last bit of resistance Chio Lim had left. With a loud thud, Chio Lim crashed heavily onto the ground. Ma Qiang followed up immediately and clamped both hands around Chio Lim's throat. Chio Lim still wanted to resist, but there was not a shred of strength left in his body. Ma Qiang was in full condition right now, while Chio Lim's body had already been completely drained after going through such a brutal battle. The current Chio Lim had no way of beating Ma Qiang, not to mention that Ma Qiang still had so many people behind him. From the very beginning, this had never been a fair fight. Seeing that the battle was already nearing its end, Hae-gun sneered from the side. Because he used to be Taisu's friend, I had actually been looking forward to this, but now it seems he's nothing special. Yeo Min-hyuk at the side also added, a complete waste of time. Listening to the voices around him, Taisu never spoke. He neither refuted them nor stopped them. He only watched quietly with those cold eyes that seemed to have no warmth at all, and no one could guess what he was thinking. Feeling the pressure on his neck grow heavier and heavier, Chiolim even felt as if death was truly closing in on him. But just at that razor-thin moment between life and death, someone finally arrived. With one punch, the newcomer smashed directly into Makyang's face and forcibly saved Chiolim. Chiolim's eyes were full of disbelief. "Chiolim, what the hell are you doing? How are you getting pinned down and beaten by this little brat? And Taisu, you bastard, your own people are getting bullied and you're just standing there watching? Or are you the kind of person who was never taught basic decency from the day you were born?" The one who had come was none other than Nam Hyok-jin, Chiolim's middle school companion. Looking at Nam Hyok-jin, who had suddenly appeared, Chiolim was a little surprised and asked how he had found this place. Hearing Chiolim ask that, Nam Hyok-jin slowly replied that someone had told him the news, and that person was Yuzeong. Clearly, almost everything Chiolim would do had already been predicted by Yuzeong. Although Yuzeong kept saying that he would no longer bother with Chiolim, in reality, he had been secretly helping him the whole time, just like a true strategist, laying down every path Chiolim needed in advance. And after hearing Yuzeong's name, Chiolim also fell silent. Clearly, even he himself had not expected that Yuzeong would keep helping him like this. At this moment, Chiolim was probably full of guilt as well, because from the very beginning, his attitude toward Yuzeong had always been cold, yet Yuzeong had never once held it against him. At that moment, Nam Hyok-jin looked at Taisu and said, "So, Mr. Taisu, can you explain to me what exactly all of this is about?" Before Taisu could answer, Haegun said coldly from the side, "Isn't it obvious enough? That guy did something wrong, and now he's just receiving punishment. Didn't you see a whole pile of people already lying on the ground?" The one who crossed the line first was Chiolim. The camera shifts to Yohan Jong. At this moment, he was still clutching his mouth and screaming in pain, looking pathetically ridiculous. Hearing Haegun's words, Nam Hyok-jin looked full of disdain. "What line? Where exactly is this line drawn? Can you point it out to me? Was it drawn with chalk or something else? Because I don't see anything at all." As Haegun listened to Nam Hyok-jin's words, he was just about to curse back when Nam Hyok-jin continued. "I'll give you 5 seconds to bring Sol Kim back to life. If you can't do that, then the rest of you can go down and keep him company." Clearly, Nam Hyok-jin already knew about Sol Kim too. Most likely Yuzeong had told him everything. As Chiolim's most trusted brother, Nam Hyok-jin naturally also had feelings for Sol Kim. Seeing that Nam Hyok-jin had actually started counting down, the people on the other side were so angry that they laughed. This guy had to be insane. Clearly, they did not take Nam Hyok-jin seriously at all, because they held an absolute advantage in numbers. But they would very soon pay the price for their arrogance. Seeing Nam Hyok-jin's attitude, Ji-min could no longer hold back and charged over with his fist swinging. But Nam Hyok-jin merely shifted to the side and easily dodged, which was enough to show that Nam Hyok-jin's strength was absolutely not weak. Seeing that, Haegun at the side also moved and charged at Nam Hyok-jin with a furious shout. But what no one expected was that Nam Hyok-jin was still continuing the countdown. Facing the attacks of the second and third-ranked fighters at the same time, he still dared to remain this calm. Either he was crazy, or he was an absolute powerhouse. As the countdown reached 0, Nam Hyok-jin's eyes instantly turned cold, and the killing intent coming from him was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. But just as both sides were about to clash fiercely, Yohan Jong, still clutching his mouth and screaming in pain, suddenly let out an angry roar. He shouted at everyone, "Call 119 now, and stop this bullshit already." Clearly, he had truly been beaten scared, terrified that if things dragged on any longer, something really would happen. I think that if he had not been beaten into this state, he would absolutely never have allowed anyone to call an ambulance. He simply does not care whether other people live or die. Looking at Yohan Jong's mangled, blood-covered appearance, Taisu finally spoke. "Let's stop here for today. We all need to sort things out first. Once you gather everyone, we'll continue. Otherwise, it won't be interesting." Nam Hyok-jin let out a cold laugh. "Are you sure? If everyone really gets called in, are you sure you'll be able to handle it?" In Taisu's reddened eyes shone an almost insane light. "I'll personally wipe all you trash out." Chiolim's eyes were full of coldness. He knew that this matter could no longer possibly end peacefully. As for asking Taisu again why he had done this, there was no longer any meaning in it, because Sol Kim was already dead. The only thing Chiolim had to do now was take revenge. But as he was now, he no longer had the strength to keep fighting, and if Nam Hyok-jin alone had to deal with everyone here, it really would be too difficult. So after thinking it through, Chiolim said nothing more and turned to leave with Nam Hyok-jin. As Chiolim passed by Taisu, he said word by word, "Don't worry, Taisu. I will kill you with my own hands and avenge Sol Kim." In the end, only Taisu and Ji-min were left on the rooftop. Ji-min said with obvious dissatisfaction, "Because of Chiolim, 5 people on our side were seriously hurt, and we just let him leave like that?" In fact, From the very beginning, Ji-min had not understood Taisu's decision at all. It was only because he was wary of Taisu's authority that he had not lashed out at the time. Taisu slowly said, "I let them go because Johan Zhang's condition was already starting to look bad. If this dragged on any longer, Johan Zhang and the others would only end up worse." But that explanation clearly did not convince Ji-min at all. With an ugly expression, he continued to ask, "Was that really the only reason? Then why exactly did you arrange for Sol Kim to be bullied? Why exactly did you do it?" Faced with Ji-min's questioning, Taisu gave no answer. He only slowly cast his gaze downstairs, where one person was standing. That person was Baek Sung-hyan. Cheo-lim and Nam Hyuk-jin returned to the orphanage. After his wounds were bandaged, Cheo-lim remained silent the whole time, constantly thinking about what he should do next to deal with Taisu. At that moment, Nam Hyuk-jin spoke. "Yuzeong has already told me roughly some of what happened to you, but I still want to hear it directly from you." With a heavy expression, Cheo-im slowly began to speak, telling him in complete detail everything he had personally seen, Sol Kim jumping from the building, and everything that had happened afterward. Seeing the pain on Cheo-lim's face that he simply could not suppress, Nam Hyuk-jin said nothing more and directly pulled Cheo-lim outside. After a long silence, Cheo-lim finally asked Nam Hyuk-jin what he had been doing lately. Nam Hyuk-jin answered casually that, like Cheo-lim, after dropping out of school he had been learning new things while earning money to survive. Then Cheo-lim asked about their old companions, and the answer he got was that aside from Nam Hyuk-jin, everyone else was still in school. At that moment, Nam Hyuk-jin said, "The way Taisu has turned out now probably has a lot to do with his parents, because his parents got divorced." Cheo-lim was clearly stunned for a moment, completely unaware of when that had happened. Nam Hyuk-jin replied, "It should have been around the time Taisu transferred schools. And it was from then on that Taisu became more and more silent." Cheo-lim took a deep breath. He did now know why Taisu had transferred, but he still could not understand why Taisu had chosen to target him in particular. Nam Hyuk-jin told Cheo-lim to think more carefully. Maybe he could find some clue in something Sol Kim had said before. Cheo-lim began constantly recalling all the details of the past between himself and Sol Kim. As his memory slowly turned further back, Cheo-lim suddenly remembered something Sol Kim had once said. Sol Kim had said that during middle school, someone close to him had died. At that thought, Cheo-lim immediately asked Nam Hyuk-jin whether he remembered that. After thinking for a moment, Nam Hyuk-jin said that it did seem like something like that had happened, and that the school had apparently even conducted an investigation at the time, though he himself had not paid much attention then. Nam Hyuk-jin asked Cheo-lim whether there were any other clues, because relying on just that one thing still gave them too little information. After hearing that, Cheo-lim continued, "I remember it seemed like because of that incident, Sol Kim was even scolded by Hyun Seo at the time." Listening to Cheo-lim's words, Nam Hyuk-jin could not help beginning to suspect something. The person who died back then might really have had some kind of connection to Sol Kim, and that person just happened to also be connected to Taisu, which was why Taisu had kept targeting Sol Kim. Hearing Nam Hyuk-jin's speculation, Cheo-lim also felt it was not entirely impossible, but the guess was still too far-fetched. After all, someone like Sol Kim could never really have done that kind of thing. But now, those things were no longer the most important. What mattered was that Taisu had personally caused Sol Kim's death. As long as they dealt with Taisu first, everything would eventually become clear. Nam Hyuk-jin sighed and said, "That guy Taisu really isn't simple. By the way, how's your sister doing lately?" The moment he heard that, Cheo-lim's expression instantly darkened. "She's in very bad condition. Because of them, Hyun Seo is still lying in the hospital right now, and it's still unclear whether she'll live or die." Nam Hyuk-jin was obviously shocked. This was the first time he had learned about Hyun Seo's current condition. He immediately pressed Cheo-lim for what had happened. At that point, Cheo-lim's face became even more pained, and those memories he had not wanted to touch were dragged out once again by force. "My sister was a teacher at that school. She wanted to correct the bullying in the school, but in the end, they turned her into this." For a moment, Nam Hyuk-jin did not know how to comfort him either, and could only say in a low voice, "Then we'll turn that whole school upside down together." Seeing that Nam Hyuk-jin had already made his stance clear, Cheo-lim did not stand on ceremony and directly asked him to go gather everyone back first. Nam Hyuk-jin nodded. "No problem. That group looks like they have numbers, but really they're just a mob. Wait for my message." After saying that, Nam Hyuk-jin turned and left directly. Watching Nam Hyuk-jin's departing figure, Cheo-lim finally felt somewhat steadier inside, and at the same time he fully made up his mind. This time, no matter what, he would definitely settle things with Taisu once and for all. But before that, there was still one thing he had to do first. Meanwhile, at the hospital, a figure stood quietly outside the emergency room. He stared at the name on the patient list by the door for a long time without moving, and that person was Baek Sung-hyan. When he saw Hyeon Seo's name, Baek Sung Hyeon's fist suddenly clenched tightly. In the next second, he crouched down in pain, repeating "I'm sorry" over and over again.